subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
He didn't have time to think, and with a swing of his twin swords, he chose to exchange injury for injury. Boom! The lightning generated from the lightning blade struck Sarutobi Ryo's body from a distance. Sarutobi Ryo's crushing palm also struck Kuratsuchi Raiga from a distance. Kuratsuchi Raiga spat out a mouthful of blood, his entire body forced backward by Sarutobi Ryo's attack, eventually crashing heavily into the ground. Sarutobi Ryo, on the other hand, trembled and staggered backward. However, due to the damage reduction effect of the steel release force field, he only took a few steps back before regaining his balance. Kuratsuchi Raiga was filled with rage. Since becoming a ninja, when had he ever been in such a miserable state? Almost instantly, he flipped over and retreated rapidly. This guy, his taijutsu is too strong. I have to create some distance between us. Anger did not affect his judgment. Young Master is gaining the upper hand. Yamanaka Kei's eyes lit up, feeling that it was time for their side to launch a counterattack. At the same time, several root ninja emerged from the forest. They were worried about Nanoyu's safety, so they had returned. You've come at the right time. Nanoyu adjusted her glasses. Sarutobi Ryo's performance gave her immense confidence. This mission, it can be done. Let's move. Just as Yamanaka Kei and the others were about to attack, and Kuratsuchi Raiga was retreating, Sarutobi Ryo's eyes flashed, seizing the opportunity. The saying goes, when enemies meet on a narrow road, the brave win. When the opponent chose to create distance, the outcome was already decided. Swoosh! His sleeve fluttered, and a kunai appeared in his hand. Sharp wind-released chakra flowed over the kunai. Only a flash of afterimage could be seen. The fierce wind then cut through half a meter of air, directly slicing towards Kuratsuchi Raiga's neck under Sarutobi Ryo's control. If the nature of lightning release was penetration, lightning fast speed, then the characteristic of wind release was cutting and extension. The expansive nature of wind allowed it to possess the widest range of attack. For example, a C-rank wind release. Great breakthrough could create a large-scale effect like a strong wind sweeping through. When wind release was attached to a weapon, the chakra flow could also transform it into an extended blade. Thus, the 20-centimeter-long kunai suddenly extended by half a meter. The transparent, vibrating airflow, like a steel saw, swept across Kuratsuchi Raiga's neck. Swoosh! Blood bloomed. This scene was like a Suma using Flying Swallow to cut open Haiden's neck in the original story. The condensed wind blade inflicted the deepest wound Kuratsuchi Raiga had suffered since the battle began. What? At the moment of being hit, he even had an expression of disbelief. The powerful life force of a Jonin prevented him from dying immediately. In the next second, Kuratsuchi Raiga, whose mind was racing, made his last decision before death. Lightning release. Lightning burial. The signature move of the 7 ninja swordsmen, also the swan song of the wielder of the lightning blades, Kiba. By releasing all chakra, the chakra is channeled into the clouds, then strikes down with lightning speed, holding the grandest funeral for oneself. And this move would also create a wide area attack effect. Thus, in the 3rd second of the battle, Kuratsuchi Raiga's technique was completed. The dying counterattack, accompanied by deafening thunder and an extremely bright white light that made it impossible to open one's eyes, enveloped the entire forest. It was unknown how much time had passed. Nanoyu finally regained her sight. Young Master! Yamanaka Kei's exclamation echoed in her ears. Hate Igeo, who was at the side, was also somewhat eager to move. But as a hand rested on her lower back, her rash action stopped. If she was in her prime, she could take care of this medical kunoichi with a great body at any time. But at this moment, in her weakened state, she could only think about it. Don't get excited. I just want to retrieve the lightning blades. Kiba. Hey, Igeo smiled, explaining. The center of the forest The location of the lightning strike was now emitting green smoke. The center of the hit, Kuratsuchi Raiga, naturally had no remains left, and the lightning that radiated out caused many trees to fall to the side. Even just the aftershock was enough to completely kill a Chunin. After all, this was Kuratsuchi Raiga's final counterattack and the strongest killing move of the lightning blades. Cough, cough, cough. The next moment, a blackened figure crawled out of the dust. The clothes on his body had turned into rags, and his whole body was charred black. His stance was also somewhat unsteady. But at this moment, no one doubted his strength. Young Master, in Yamanaka, Kei's joyful gaze, in everyone's horrified gaze, Sarutobi Ryo, his eyes were like knives, as bright as the shining sun. His powerful physical qualities and strength, as well as the deflection of the steel release, Kekkei Genkai, allowed Sarutobi Ryo to withstand the fatal attack. At the moment the lightning spread to his body, the steel release stance on the surface of his skin, like a ripple of water, distributed the damage to the entire surface of his body. If it weren't for the steel release, Kekkei Genkai, Sarutobi Ryo would have definitely been struck dead by the lightning release technique from such close range. But Sarutobi Ryo relied on the steel release to survive. However, just when no one noticed, in the rainforest after the rain, another change quietly occurred. Drip. Water rippled. The flowing water beside Sarutobi Ryo's feet rapidly changed. It was as if something was controlling them. With a rapid surge of a large pool of water, many water droplets were connected together. Immediately afterward, a stream of clear water approached Sarutobi Ryo's side. Splash! Like a hand and head formed from the combination of water and a human body, suddenly grew out from the puddle and finally grabbed the two lightning blades. Hee, the lightning blades are mine. Hey, Igeo suddenly widened her eyes, immediately recognizing the other party's identity. It's that Hozuki clan brat, around the same age as Kakashi, hailed as the Hidden Mist genius prodigy. Hozuki Mangetsu also participated in this mission. Waiting for the opportunity, he took advantage of the situation, grabbed the two swords, and darted away like flowing water. Even though Sarutobi Ryo was seriously injured, he didn't have the slightest intention of ambushing him. At this moment, he only wanted to run away with the swords. Kuratsuchi Raiga was dead, and the follow-up to his duel with Hate Igeo would have to be a headache for the Hidden Mist higher-ups. With Hate Igeo colluding with Konoha at the moment, whoever picks up the ninja sword, the sword belongs to them. A cry of surprise sounded. Soon, the Hidden Mist ninja left the scene to chase Hozuki Mangetsu. The desire for the swords made them give up continuing the fight. Chapter 43. Persuasion, damn it. Cough, cough, cough. Hate Igeo, who was about to chase out, coughed violently. 38. Section 38. Having just recovered from her illness, there was ultimately no way to catch up. The Hozuki clan's water transformation technique was extremely fast for escaping. Plus, after returning, he had the protection of the Hozuki clan. Perhaps the blade would eventually become that brat's possession. Sarutobi Ryo watched the blob of water move away at a grotesque speed, with no intention of pursuing it. His own serious injuries were one aspect. On the other hand, Ringoyu Yuri, this guy, being branded as a traitor, would inevitably become a missing nin of Kirigakure and be hunted down by the entire village. Her days ahead would definitely not be easy. If she had the lightning release blade, she would be much more comfortable. Without it, she could only rely on herself, increasing the probability of cooperating with him. As expected, current progress, 35%, the extra 5% progress also reflected her subconscious thoughts in that flash of lightning. The strength of the 7 ninja swordsmen would increase significantly with the blades. Without her blade, Ringoyu Yuri was just a slightly stronger jonin. Young Master. Compared to Ringoyu Yuri's thoughts, Yamanaka Kei was much more straightforward. She immediately rushed towards Sarutobi Ryo and summoned Nanoyu to treat their young master. This place is not suitable for a long stay. Sarutobi Ryo shook his head, not sitting down to receive treatment, but planning to leave first. After all, no one knew if Kirigakure had already prepared to send people over 3 days ago. Return to the port first. Sarutobi Ryo decided to return to the port town first. We understand. Nanoyu frowned, worried about Sarutobi Ryo's injuries, but still agreed. Not long after, Sarutobi Ryo was already sitting in the ship's cabin. On the swaying sea, the waves crashed. The guys from the Bloody Mist seemed to not pay attention to this side. After the Hozuki clan brats stole the lightning release blade, they disappeared. The ship set sail steadily. Yamanaka continued to sense, preventing anyone from attacking. Nanoyu's palm shone with a bright light, treating Sarutobi Ryo's body. The root ninjas guarding outside the cabin did not enter, but the gazes they frequently cast inside revealed their surprise. In this operation without strong reinforcements, the third Hokage's son not only defected Ringoya Yuri of the 7 ninja swordsmen, but also successfully broke through the encirclement and even killed Kurigomo Raiga. The opponent was also a prominent figure in Kirigakure, but was easily wiped out in a few moves. Although the counterattack before his death injured Sarutobi Ryo. But that didn't change anything. Having achieved such results just after joining the Umbu, I'm afraid the road to promotion later would be smooth sailing. Inside the cabin, Ringoya Yuri was sitting aside, frequently staring at Sarutobi Ryo, her eyes flickering. Sarutobi Ryo closed his eyes to rest, allowing Nanoyu to treat him, and seemed to have no defenses against Ringoya Yuri. But Ringoya Yuri was very clear that if she dared to mess around, this second fire young master could definitely kill her with one palm. They all say the third Hokage swept across the battlefield. His son obviously inherited his divine power, but the problem is, what exactly do the Sarutobi clan guys eat to grow up? Ringoya Yuri quickly gave up the plan to stab Sarutobi Ryo in the back. Having lost her blades, she was nothing. Facing the pursuit of the Bloody Mist later, she would easily die without a backer. Just thinking about having to face the Kirigakure pursuit squad, that is, the continuous pursuit of the Kirigakure Umbu, without the blades, Ringoya Yuri felt a chill run down her spine. Unlike the ninja villages such as Konoha, Kirigakure has a special pursuit department to hunt down missing nin. They are professional, often doing this kind of thing. There's no way around it. Kirigakure's high-pressure policies inevitably create runaway ninjas, so there needs to be a special department to handle this matter. And coincidentally, the head of the Kirigakure Umbu, the Umbu commander, is Ringoya Yuri's acquaintance. One of the 7 ninja swordsman holder of the Great Blade, Samahata, Suikazan Fuguki. If Danzo is the darkness of Konoha, then that dead fat guy, Suikazan Fuguki, is the dark side of Kirigakure. Of course, no matter how dark, it's still not as dark as that old thing, the third Mizukage. Ringoya Yuri muttered to herself, only feeling that the future was bleak. Not seriously injured, Nanoyu was extremely surprised while treating him. A layer of special chakra enveloped the epidermis and subcutaneous tissue, reducing the damage from the outside world. This chakra seems to be a bloodline limit. There is no saying of bloodline limit in the Sarutobi clan, which made her even more curious about Sarutobi Ryo. On this side, Ringoya Yuri, who had figured it out, had decisively prepared to defect. Can I join your Konoha side? Her tone was relaxed, but her eyes were fixed on Sarutobi Ryo. If you go to Konoha, it will only be worse for you. Sarutobi Ryo opened his eyes, his divine light bursting out. His sharp gaze swept across Yuri's body like a blade. If you fall into Danzo's hands, you will know what it means to live a life worse than death. These words were also spoken for Yakushi Nanoyu to hear. The latter's face slowly became serious. Obviously, she didn't seem as loyal to Root as she looked. Nanoyu, in fact, was very unwilling to work in Root. Only under certain pressures could she only collect intelligence for Danzo. And Nanoyu at this time has no weakness. Until in the original work, after resigning and opening an orphanage, she was coerced by Danzo. So, Sarutobi Ryo believes that Yakushi Nanoyu can also be won over. Then what should I do? Ringoya Yuri widened her eyes. Didn't you say cooperate? You can go to the underground exchange to be a bounty hunter. Sarutobi Ryo thought of a good way out for Ringoya Yuri. This way, you can earn money while collecting intelligence to avoid the pursuit of the Kirigakure Umbu. Bounty Hunter. Ringoya Yuri nodded slightly, somewhat moved. Of course, if you have free time, you can also go live in my manor. Ringoya Yuri is, after all, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. She can let her teach Honglien and be responsible for the operation of her industry. Aren't you afraid that I will run away with your money? Ringoya Yuri supported her body with both hands behind her back and raised her legs. Sarutobi Ryo's answer was profound. Seeing Sarutobi Ryo's smile, Ringoya Yuri couldn't help but think of the experience that night. She covered her mouth, immediately got up, and went outside to vomit. What's wrong with her? Nanoyu blinked. Probably seasickness, Sarutobi Ryo said expressionlessly. Nanoyu. Chapter 44. Azura Path Love. After returning to the port town, Sarutobi Ryo began to recuperate. During this period, in addition to being treated by Nanoyu, he also pointed out Honglien's cultivation and knowledge in various aspects. Ringoya Yuri's complexion also got better and better. She ate and drank every day, and her life was also very comfortable. As for what happened here, it was naturally reported by Nanoyu. However, she concealed some things from Danzo. Ringoya Yuri said that the missing means sold information to Konoha, and young Master Sarutobi Ryo simply made a deal with her. There was no other entanglement between the two. If it was a ninja who was loyal to Danzo, he would never do this. But the people of Root are also divided into different levels. For children like Sai who were caught in Root from a young age, there would be a curse of Root tongue on their tongues. Nanoyu was born in Konoha and is a native of Konoha. Danzo has no right to engrave a curse seal on her tongue. The same thing also happened to the talents sent to Root by the Yamanaka clan and the Aburame clan. For example, the current Root ninja of the Aburame clan, Aburame Ryoma, also does not have the curse of Root tongue on his tongue. Because that ninja of the Yamanaka clan died in battle in World War II, Danzo coveted Yamanaka K and hoped that Yamanaka K would replace the lost position. And in the original work, after Uchiha Itachi joined the Umbu, he transferred to Root and became a squad leader, and he was not given the curse of Root tongue by Danzo either. So, thinking that all Root ninjas have a curse seal is a folk rumor. 39, Section 39. Someone's coming. Sensing someone outside, Ringoya Yuri immediately flashed and entered the house. In recent days, adhering to the principle of the less trouble, the better, Ringoya Yuri had been using transformation techniques to disguise her identity. But even so, she was still cautious, fearing that someone would expose her identity. Soon, the person outside was let in by Yamanaka Hui. Young Master, a Root ninja, has arrived. Danzo's man, Sarutobi Ryo, sitting in a chair in the hall, looked up. A young man with a blank expression and wearing sunglasses walked in. He looked to be about 20 years old, with a purple lightning bolt-like mark on his cheek. Danzo's right-hand man, Aburame Ryoma, often following Danzo, seeing him every day, Sarutobi Ryo naturally recognized him. Young Master Ryo, long time no see, Aburame Ryoma slowly said. The sunglasses covered his eyes, making it impossible to see through his thoughts. Lord Danzo and Lord Hokage, they have heard about your mission experience, and everyone is very shocked. Having just become a Jonin and joined the Umbu, he had already caused such a big commotion. If Umbu members didn't need to keep their identities secret, these matters would probably have already caused a stir throughout Konoha. Therefore, currently, Sarutobi Ryo's mission experience is only circulating among the higher-ups. But no matter what, killing Kuroki Raiga, who wielded the Thunder Sword, upon his debut can directly confirm Sarutobi Ryo possesses the strength to contend with the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist. Even if Kuroki Raiga had just obtained the Thunder Sword and was at the bottom of the ranking, this kind of record is truly too amazing. The only newly promoted Jonin who could possibly do this is probably Minato Namikaze, who is also shining. Aburame Ryoma simply waved his hand. The 2 Root ninjas accompanying him took out some things. Umbu mask, uniform, identity representative, ninja tools, and some high-quality medicinal materials for healing. The things in front were understandable, but the things behind were intriguing. Danzo wants to win me over. In just a few seconds, countless guesses flashed through Sarutobi Ryo's mind. Young Master Ryo, please take good care of your injuries. We can talk about other things when we return to the village. Aburame Ryoma nodded towards Nono. If before was just a guess, then now. Aburame Ryoma's silence about the manner and industry here confirmed Sarutobi Ryo's guess. After this battle, the higher-ups seemed to have tacitly approved of him building a port industry in this town. Danzo's subordinate, right-hand man, most loyal lackey, and also the insect manipulator who makes people feel disgusted and fearful. Of course, his identity as an elite jonin, his illustrious military exploits, and the countless dark missions he has completed are enough to make him notorious. Aburame Ryoma made a special trip here and even looked for Yakushi Nono. Sarutobi Ryo tapped his fingers, his thoughts flowing. Is something about to happen? Outside, after leaving the manor, Aburame Ryoma looked around to make sure no one was eavesdropping before speaking. The higher-ups have a mission for you. Aburame Ryoma's tone immediately made Nono understand who was giving the order this time. If it were Lord Hokage, he would directly say it was the third Hokage. If it were Danzo, he would also directly say it was Lord Danzo. But the words higher-ups meant that the following mission was jointly issued by Kuruyudatane, Hamura Mikoto, and Danzo. Did something happen? Nono frowned. Could it be that another war is about to break out? World War II has just ended. It shouldn't be. The 5 major countries' plunder of the spoils of smaller countries should be enough to support them for many years before they can be completely digested. The 3 high-level officials want you to do something. Listen. Aburame Ryoma's tone gradually became cold. After Nono heard the specific arrangements, she opened her eyes in disbelief. What? You want to do something to Mr. Sakumo? Don't be nervous. Aburame Ryoma narrowed his eyes. It's just to slightly damage his reputation. It won't have much impact. After all, the higher-ups don't want Konoha White Fang to become Hokage, but he is too much of a hindrance. He has a very high reputation among the people, and his competitiveness is too great. So, next, ruining his reputation and preventing him from running for the next Hokage is the plan designed by the higher-ups. To do this kind of thing, you have to arrange a seamless task, which is also a trap for Hitaki Sakumo to step into. You are the most outstanding spy in the village. Only you can handle this matter well. Set off immediately. Aburame Ryoma instructed. I understand. Nono lowered her eyes and said softly. Nono's departure without saying goodbye made Sarutobi Ryo suspicious. Although Aburame Ryoma found someone else to replace her for treatment, Sarutobi Ryo, who was not at ease about this, politely declined the other party's suggestion. Sarutobi Ryo, who has the identity of a transmigrator, is familiar with the plot of Naruto. After deduction, he quickly came to a conclusion. Could it be that the higher-ups' actions against Konoha White Fang have begun? In order to avoid complications, Sarutobi Ryo decided that after tonight, he would set off back to Konoha early tomorrow morning. But before that, there is one more thing to do. Ringo Urili. After Aburame Ryoma and the others had completely left, Sarutobi Ryo looked at the Mist Ninja's genius girl. Inject the will of fire into Ringo Urili progress. 39% mission reward. Possibility of ice release. Huh? What do you want from me? Urili, who hadn't realized her own fate, still had a playful expression. Your biggest regret before was not having a good love life, right? Sarutobi Ryo's directness left Ringo Urili dumbfounded. She didn't know how familiar Sarutobi Ryo was with this world. Why, you can tell that easily, Ringo Urili exclaimed. Yes, very obvious, Sarutobi Ryo said with a straight face, very seriously. So, Ringo Urili. So, let's have a love affair. Ringo Urili, Sarutobi Ryo said coldly. Ringo Urili, I want you to become my will of fire weapon. Ringo Urili. In the next second, without explanation, Sarutobi Ryo grabbed Ringo Urili's wrist and pulled her towards the basement. Wait. Ringo Urili struggled desperately. But she was a short lady of 1 meter 43 centimeters. How could she be Sarutobi Ryo's opponent? Soon, Ringo Urili's wails began to sound. I wanted to have a love affair, but not this kind of demonic love. Chapter 45. Yuki Clan Ice Release remains time past. The next day, as the morning sun rose, the shadow left. Huff! Ringo Urili sighed, looking at the ceiling with a somewhat dazed expression. Traces of the will of fire were everywhere. Her whole body was sore, and she couldn't even lift a finger. Outside the window, the breeze was gentle. In this beautiful season, the Photinia bloomed. In the end, she, whose body was aching to death, could only sigh and say, "He's really a jerk." And Ringo Urili, staring at the ceiling, was undergoing some kind of change. A trace of a pattern quietly outlined itself on her lower abdomen. Slowly, it formed a flame mark like Konoha's. This seemed to symbolize a will of fire weapon. And below this pattern, the few words of the person's name were finally outlined. Sarutobi Ryo. The completed pattern flickered and then disappeared. Master, take care. The closed entrance to the house heard the voice of that little girl named Guren. Obviously, that guy left. He deceived people and also deceived even the corpse that was going to be exchanged for money after running away was taken away. Really is Psy 40, Section 40 soon. Honlian opened the door and walked in. When she saw Ringo Urue lying naked on the bed, she couldn't help but scream, then turned and ran away. Such a big person, so shameless. The innocent little girl only thought Ringo Urue was sleeping naked. On the way back, Sarutobi Ryo, who had arranged everything, opened the scroll and looked at the contents. This scroll belonged to Ringo Urue. After the Mist Village higher-ups discovered she was ill, they sent an expert to test Ringo Urue. Although Ringo Urue successfully killed the opponent, it also confirmed to the Mist Village higher-ups that she was terminally ill, so they sent Kurizuki Raiga and others. And the corpse in the sealing technique within this scroll was the Mist Village expert who was killed by Ringo Urue, a jonin of a Yuki clan belonging to the Umbu. The Yuki clan is also the clan of Haku in the original story. This clan possesses a Kekkei Genkai called Ice Release. Sarutobi Ryo was previously wondering why injecting the will of fire into Ringo Urue would grant Ice Release. Now, the answer is revealed. Ringo Urue, after killing the opponent, may have planned to take the corpse to the underground exchange for money. Besides many strange collectors, so, in the underground black market, one of the most valuable things is the corpses of ninjas from Kekkei Genkai clans. In other words, from this corpse, I can extract and analyze the principle of ice release combination. Many people know that ice release is a combination of water plus wind, two types of nature transformation. But exactly how to combine them, even the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan cannot replicate it. Therefore, the secret of ice release is not hidden in the hand seals, nor is it hidden in the technique, but hidden in the corpse and bloodline. Sarutobi Ryo felt a fire in his heart, wishing he could immediately return home to analyze the corpse. Nono, you went to perform a mission. Who do I know among the remaining medical ninjas? Sarutobi Ryo's first reaction was his mother, Sarutobi Buwako. As the first-generation Umbu ninja of Konoha, a subordinate of Tobarama Senju. She is also a female ninja known for her medical ninjutsu. Sarutobi Buwako not only cultivated the disciple Orochi, but also took charge of the medical department after Tsunade left the village. According to the original story's development, in later generations, Sarutobi Buwako and Orochi also delivered Kushina Uzumaki. But, thinking of his mother's selfless personality, she would most likely reveal this matter in the end, telling everyone. No way. Sarutobi Ryo shook his head. Let me think again. In addition, after injecting the will of fire into Ringo Urue, the system added a new function. It is a function called Will of Fire Weapon Imprint. Accurately speaking, it is a technique formula. The template of the technique formula is a blank curse seal. This curse seal currently only has a pattern shape, which can be customized to a certain extent, but has no specific effect. Sarutobi Ryo customized his name imprint on the pattern. In addition, Sarutobi Ryo also scared Ringo Yurue, saying that as long as she was disobedient, he could kill her instantly with a thought. Sarutobi Ryo believed that it was no problem to temporarily fool her, and as time goes by, the function of this curse seal will inevitably be expanded, thus possessing more possibilities. One day, it may even be possible to control the life and death of her, who knows. In short, the first will of fire weapon is in my hands. 2 days later, Sarutobi Ryo, Yamanaka Kei, and Hyuga returned to the village. Yamanaka Kei, who didn't know that Sarutobi Ryo had obtained the will of fire weapon, breathed a sigh of relief and happily looked at the bustling entrance. We're back. As soon as they entered, before they could sigh, a certain scene at the entrance attracted Sarutobi Ryo's attention. A man with a kappa head, with thick eyebrows and a beard. What was even more eye-catching was that he was wearing a tight-fitting suit, which made him look even more like a kappa. The moment he saw him, Yamanaka Kei's eyes changed. Eternal Genin. Might die. As an eternal Genin was ridiculed. Because he couldn't use ninjutsu, he couldn't become a chunin. Everyone said that being able to graduate and become a genin was already Lord Hokage's special favor. The origin of this matter has to start with Tobarama Senju's regulations on the ninja assessment items. Tobarama Senju stipulated the assessment standards for ninja schools, genin, chunin, jonin, and even umbu. However, he who made the regulations did not know that even if you can't use ninjutsu, you can still become a strong person. And this also illustrates one thing. If a ninja cannot become a chunin for a long time, then it is a very strange thing. Guy, don't worry. Although that boy named Kakashi has graduated early and become a genin, you can still regard him as a challenging opponent. But Might Dai's son, in the eyes of others, is just a small kappa. Overall, it is a strange father and son duo. After Guy learned that Kakashi had graduated early, he was surprised, shocked, and felt it was natural. After all, the other party's talent was so amazing. This quickly amplified Guy's inferiority complex. He began to be timid, wondering if the idea of treating Kakashi as a challenging opponent before was overestimating himself. No buts. Youth has no regrets. You must bravely move forward so that you will not fail your efforts. Might Dai comforted his son, constantly saying words of encouragement. Just then, footsteps sounded beside the father and son. Young Master Ryo. Noticing Sarutobi Ryo coming over, Might Dai immediately stood up and greeted Sarutobi Ryo. Everyone in Konoha knows Sarutobi Ryo. After all, this is the Hokage's son, completely different from the son of an ordinary person. Guy stood beside his father, feeling even more timid in his heart. Mr. Dai, long time no see. Sarutobi Ryo nodded and looked at Guy again. You are Mr. Might Dai's son, Guy, right? Guy, who is called Kai Huang by Naruto fans, is still just a child without confidence at this time. The path of life's growth is so wonderful. Overcoming difficulties and obstacles, and finally, becoming a confident, strong person. This is a true portrayal of many people. Why you know me? Guy was a little surprised. Yes, I've heard of the story of the child who worked hard to pass the makeup exam. Sarutobi Ryo nodded. Half a year ago, Guy failed the entrance exam, but later passed the makeup exam. Some people may start very slowly, but as they continue to work hard, they will get faster and faster. Sarutobi Ryo's mouth curled up, and a light that Guy didn't understand flashed in his eyes. And some people walk very fast at the beginning, but later, they can't move in place. Guy blinked blankly. Might Dai on the side was thoughtful. Temporary success or failure cannot determine anything. Looking at the long term, the road of life is slow, and some things can be practiced for a lifetime. After a while, Guy, whose school time arrived, waved goodbye. Looking at his leaving back, Might Dai was also unsure in his heart. But after listening to young Master Ryo's words, he felt that things may really have the value of hard work. Mr. Dai, in a few days, I may have a task that needs someone to help when the time comes. Can I invite you to join? Sarutobi Ryo turned around, and the formal invitation caught Might Dai off guard. He widened his eyes and felt very incredible. And this interaction was also seen by some people who had just returned. Okay, no problem. After realizing it, Might Dai immediately nodded with a sincere face. However, he was a little puzzled. What kind of task requires Genin and Jonin to perform together? This is naturally Sarutobi Ryo's plan to save Hitaki Tsukumo. The Konoha high level is laying out in advance. Then I also have to lay out on my side. After Might Dai left, one of the children's figures swayed over. Humph. Some people start slowly. Some people walk very fast at the beginning, but later they can't move in place. Are you talking about me? Young Master Ryo. Always unlucky, tragic kid. Kakashi is back from his mission. That's right, I'm talking about you. Sarutobi Ryo looked over, ruthlessly starting to beat the bear child with the iron fist of society. Have you heard of the tortoise and the hare race? Kakashi. 41. Section 41, Chapter 46. Iron Fist smashes brat Kakashi, speaking human language to humans and ghost language to ghosts. This slick way of dealing with the world is originally understandable. But if you treat acquaintances and close people like this, it seems insincere. If there were no ties with Kakashi, Sarutobi Ryo might not have deliberately mentioned this matter. But since Hitaki Tsukumo is his home tutor, teaching him swordsmanship, body flicker technique, and other skills without reservation, some things must be said, because praising to death will only harm Kakashi, especially when Hitaki Tsukumo might be plotted against and killed by Konoha's higher-ups, with that day approaching. The tortoise runs slowly, and the rabbit runs fast. The tortoise keeps crawling forward, but the rabbit rests and dozes off halfway, and in the end, the tortoise wins. Kakashi said the fable of the tortoise and the hare smugly. This story is known even to 3-year-olds. Hitaki Tsukumo's personality is too gentle, coupled with Kakashi's life being too smooth in the early stages. This leads to Kakashi's psychological problems becoming very serious once he is hit by setbacks. In contrast, a childlike guy who grew up in hardship has a consistently tenacious spirit. Of course, Sarutobi Ryo is not praising suffering. It's just that jade must be cut and polished to become a useful object. But Ryo-sama, not all rabbits will doze off, and there are many rabbits who work harder than tortoises. Kakashi put his hands on his hips, very unconvinced. Ryo-sama. Minato Namikaze nodded towards Sarutobi Ryo, his expression as sunny as ever. It can be seen that Kakashi's Genin mission experience is very smooth. Otherwise, it would not have been possible for him to continue to be promoted to Chunin in less than a year in the original story. He is a veritable child prodigy. But this is just appearance. Of course, rabbits can work harder, but some people are not rabbits. Sarutobi Ryo shook his head. Kakashi frowned involuntarily. What do you mean? I'll just say it directly. You seem to be progressing rapidly now, with a halo, and you seem to be very dazzling, but this doesn't mean you can progress as fast in the future. Guy progressed slowly in the early stages, but started to take off in the mid and late stages, and the rate of progress became more and more exaggerated, with the upper limit almost reaching an astonishing level. Looking back at Kakashi, perhaps he looks like a prodigy in the early stages, but once he reaches a certain watershed, you at most around 12 years old, your talent weaknesses will begin to be exposed, and your strength will stagnate. Sarutobi Ryo gave Kakashi a conclusion. Guess why some people are directly promoted to Special Jonin by Konoha's higher-ups, while others skip the Special Jonin title and directly leap to the level of Jonah. Sarutobi Ryo's eyes were bright, and his words contained deep meaning. Minato Namikaze blinked, naturally understanding Sarutobi Ryo's meaning. Some people's talents can be seen to the end at a glance. They can only be in a certain position for the rest of their lives, because that is their ability. Konoha's higher-ups have sharp eyes, and everyone is not stupid. Which ninja can become a Jonin is known to everyone. Those ninjas who can't go up or down, stuck in the middle, ultimately end up as special jonin. So, this is not metaphysics, nor is it a prediction, but a scientific estimation method. With my talent, becoming a jonin is no problem at all. Kakashi was unconvinced. He also wanted to say, you will be able to develop nature transformation to A rank, S rank in the future, right? Sarutobi Ryo predicted Kakashi's prediction. Kakashi was shocked. How do you know my life plan? So what? I'll just say it directly. Even if you could develop an S-rank nature transformation technique, your weakness is as obvious as the sun in the sky. Sarutobi Ryo didn't beat around the bush and directly pointed out Kakashi's shortcomings. You have two major problems. First, your life path is too smooth. You were spoiled by Tsukumo-sensei when you were young, resulting in being pampered and having extremely poor psychological quality. You are a useless second generation, a complete waste. Second, your dynamic vision is the worst of the worst. Any jonin can kill you in seconds, even if you have an A rank or even S rank technique in your hand. If you can't see others clearly, or even see your own attack clearly, the end will be death. You will understand when you reach the jonin level. Perhaps Kakashi's weakness in dynamic vision is not obvious at the levels of Ninja Academy student, Genin, Chunin, and Special Jonin. But once you reach the jonin level, looking around, everyone has explosive reflexes / dynamic vision. Kakashi can't see the attack clearly, but others can. In close combat, the first to die is Kakashi. How can you play like this? Kakashi widened his eyes. His breathing began to quicken. He looked at his jonin instructor beside him, seemingly asking for Minato Namikaze's help. Minato Namikaze scratched his head. His eyes shifted left and right, and finally he could only nod. Kakashi, Ryo-sama, said is right. Probably. Hatake Kakashi, as the son of Mr. Hatake Tsukumo, Konoha's White Fang. His chakra attributes are even richer than Konoha's White Fang. Obviously, his talent is a combination of father and mother. But Kakashi's deceased mother was just a commoner. This kind of bloodline mixing also dragged Kakashi down, making his dynamic vision his biggest shortcoming. If Kakashi had Sharingan, Byakugan, perhaps it could be compensated. Minato Namikaze's thoughts fermented. He shook his head, dispelling the boring thoughts. Sharingan is from the Uchiha clan. How could Kakashi possibly have it? Hearing his jonin instructor's words, Kakashi was greatly shocked. He never thought that he would really have a huge talent defect, as Ryo-sama said. This is not true. Kakashi shook his head subconsciously. This is what happens when a brat is beaten by society's iron fist. You might as well ask your Minato-sensei if he will teach you the golden flash body flicker technique, and you can be sure. Yamanaka Ino couldn't help but add insult to injury. The golden flash body flicker technique, of course, refers to the Flying Thunder God. After Senju Tobarama's death, not many people knew about the Flying Thunder God space ninjutsu. The public spread rumors, and most ninjas thought that Minato Namikaze's space movement was a different kind of normal body flicker technique. Kakashi, Minato Namikaze hurriedly wiped the non-existent sweat from his forehead. With your dynamic vision, I'm afraid you can't use Flying Thunder God. Kakashi let out a wail. He was ashamed, angry, and sad. Feeling ashamed, he ran away on the spot. Kakashi, Minato Namikaze waved his hand. But Kakashi, with sadness and anger on his head, would not stop and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Ryo-sama, Minato Namikaze, turned his head and organized his words. Are we being too harsh? No. Sarutobi Ryo's eyes flashed with a light that Minato Namikaze didn't understand. Next, there will be even more terrible things waiting for Kakashi. Not tempering him in advance is really harming him. And soon, Minato Namikaze will know what it is. Chapter 47. Promotion to Umbu Squad Leader Hokage Building. Sarutobi Ryo hadn't even reached the door when he saw a familiar scene again. Red hot-blooded habanero is hitting someone again. Sarutobi Ryo said lightly. Do you have a problem with that? Kushina, who had beaten someone to the ground, looked at Sarutobi Ryo angrily. Her red hair danced behind her head, a veritable tyrant girl. Seeming to dislike Sarutobi Ryo, the beautiful red-haired girl mocked. Humph, Sarutobi Ryo. You just have a good dad, don't you? Kushina, who punches elementary school students and kicks Jonin, is very majestic. Minato Namikaze, Kushina. Heh. Sarutobi Ryo smiled insincerely. I just like people saying that about me. Kushina's breathing stagnated slightly. Her whole body was dumbfounded. Kushina, have never seen such a shameless person. A verbal tick, Sarutobi Ryo, Yamanaka Ino, Hyuga Minato Namikaze, Kushina were all classmates back then. However, Sarutobi Ryo and Kushina didn't have much interaction, because Sarutobi Ryo at that time was a little laid back in the face of the future path and was not interested in the surrounding things. Later, after witnessing some things, he confirmed the path he wanted to take. 42, Section 42, Ahui, Ruri. Let's go. Sarutobi Ryo ignored Kushina and walked straight towards the entrance of the Hokage building. Sarutobi Ryo, I want to fight you one-on-one. Kushina shouted from behind, and Minato Namikaze tried his best to dissuade her, which finally stopped the disturbance. When Sarutobi Ryo entered the Hokage's office, several high-level officials were already waiting. Having heard of Sarutobi Ryo's ANBU resume, they naturally wanted to inquire about it. Sarutobi Hiruzen just opened his mouth. Hamura Mikoto on the side suddenly started to interrupt. Minato, you're here. Minato Namikaze entered the office right after. Minato's recent performance has been very impressive. Konoha Fire turned her head and looked at Hamura Mikoto. Yes, Hamura Mikoto nodded. While leading the team, other tasks are completed perfectly. Oh, there's even an S-rank mission among them. Seeing the two people's harmonious remarks, a strange light flashed in Sarutobi Ryo's eyes. What is this? Paving the way for Minato Namikaze in advance? Recalling Ryuma Aburame's personal experience and Nono's sudden departure without saying goodbye, combined with the current scene, probably the conspiracy against Tsukumo Hatake has begun. In order to pave the way for Minato Namikaze, the higher-ups began a series of actions. This included plotting against Tsukumo Hatake and advertising in front of others, starting to promote Minato Namikaze. Is this your will of fire? How can the will of fire be done well with this group of worms? Sarutobi Ryo let whatever the Konoha high-level officials said go in one ear and out the other. After they finished praising Minato Namikaze and talking a lot of nonsense, the two advisors looked at Sarutobi Ryo. Sarutobi Ryo, what do you think? Huh? Sarutobi Ryo turned his head. What did the two high-level officials just say? I didn't hear clearly. Koharu Yuditane, Hamura Mikoto, Sarutobi Ryo, how is your injury? Bawako, who was sitting on the side, kept her eyes on her son. Having reviewed Nono's mission report, she was very concerned about Raiga Kurisuke's dying counterattack using the lightning blade. Mother, I'm almost recovered now, and I should be completely fine in a few days. Sarutobi Ryo nodded, looking radiant. Soon, the door of the Hokage's office closed. The shadows in the room became long. Sarutobi Ryo, we all know about your mission experience, and there's a point of doubt. Dans, sitting in the shadows, slowly opened his mouth. How did you bribe Ringo Urue? At this time, the people being questioned were Sarutobi Ryo, Yamanaka Hui, and Hyuga. The three had acted together before, so Hyuga was also in the ranks of being questioned. In Nono's report, there was no process of how Sarutobi Ryo bribed Ringo Urue, which was a limitation of Nono's perspective. The specific answer must naturally be asked by the Konoha high-level officials themselves. Your report said earlier the Guardian Shinobi 12 betrayed the enemy, so your plan was to lure out the contact person, that is, Ringo Urue. Koharu Yuditane took over the conversation with a solemn expression. But why did you suddenly change your mind later? The lightning blade Fong was not on Ringo Urue's back at the time, and according to Kirigakura's common sense, the knife is with the person. I guess that Kirigakura wanted to use that transaction to get rid of Ringo Urue, plus her complexion was abnormal, like a patient with a serious illness. Sarutobi Ryo, began to explain. His attitude was neither humble nor arrogant, and he quickly explained the whole story. Killing Ringo Urue is just a normal replacement for the 7 ninja swordsmen. But saving Ringo Urue and letting her live can cause great trouble and trouble for Kirigakure. Besides, Sarutobi Ryo's expression changed, and his eyes were like knives. I have removed the parasites, Guardian Shinobi, for the Land of Fire, and also killed the next heir designated by the Kirigakure high-level officials Raiga Kurisuke. Isn't that enough? Now Sarutobi Ryo has brilliant achievements. As soon as he became a Jonin and joined the ANBU, he made a series of precise kills. He solved the Guardian Shinobi 12 and killed the newly promoted 7 ninja swordsmen. In any case, it fully demonstrates his strong personal strength and talent. Now that he can kill Raiga Kurisuke, he can kill other people later. Logically and emotionally, he is a ninja worthy of key training. Sarutobi Ryo has outstanding personal strength and excellent leadership skills. All my subordinates praise him with Sarutobi Ryo's talent. He is fully capable of serving as the ANBU squad leader. How about giving him a promotion directly? Dans, who spoke before Kohoryudatane, directly praised Sarutobi Ryo. Obviously, Dans and Kohoryudatane and Hamura Mikoto have differences in the recommendation of the next Hokage. Dans doesn't think the 4th Hokage should be Minato Namikaze. He has other ideas. That's not good, Dans. Hamura Mikoto frowned immediately upon hearing this. Just joining the ANBU and being promoted directly to squad leader? There has never been such a thing. Are you senile? What will others say about Sarutobi Ryo if this gets out? Kohoryudatane immediately retorted. Others will say Sarutobi Ryo was promoted so quickly because of his father. It doesn't matter. Sarutobi Ryo's talent has exceeded everyone's expectations. He should be in a suitable position, and the words of doubt will disappear as his talent is confirmed. Dans shook his head, his tone calm. Also, Koharu, I am the ANBU commander. Dan said that he has the final say in ANBU. With my many years of experience in leading the ANBU, Sarutobi Ryo's talent is equivalent to burying his talent in the position of ordinary ANBU personnel. Rules are dead. People are alive. Making the best use of people is what a qualified leader should do. Dans, who is impervious to persuasion, did not listen to Hamura Mikoto and Koharu's opposition at all. Ha ha! At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen's hearty laughter sounded. He felt very happy about Dan's high evaluation of his son. Dans, I am really happy that you can say that. But you should also take into account Koharu and Hamura's thoughts that Sarutobi Hiruzen felt that the promotion was indeed a bit too hasty. Then wait a few days. Dans nodded. In 1 week, Sarutobi Ryo will be promoted to ANBU squad leader. How about that? Kohoryudatane, Hamura Mikoto. Isn't that the same as being promoted now? According to tradition, it will take at least half a year, or even more than a year. Bawako, what do you think? Dans looked at Sarutobi Ryo's mother, intending to win over assistance from here. Bawako is the 1st generation of ANBU ninja. She has the oldest qualifications in ANBU, and she has more say. Bawako frowned slightly, as if thinking. In ANBU history, there has never been such a fast promotion, but indeed, no one can do Sarutobi Ryo's level. I dare not say that there will be no one in the future. But it is definitely unprecedented. Since the establishment of the village, I have never heard of anyone who has continuously killed 2 long-established strongmen as soon as they joined the ANBU. So, Dans, I agree with your suggestion. Bawako nodded slightly, and finally said her opinion cautiously. Then that's it. Dan's mouth curled up, revealing a cold smile. Sarutobi Ryo, go to the ANBU base when you have time. Maybe there is something you're interested in. After saying that, Dans got up and left the Hokage's office. The goal has been achieved, and there is naturally no need to stay here. Koharu, Hamura, you two want to support Minato Namikaze. I bet on both sides. Orochimaru and Sarutobi Ryo's intervention will muddy the situation. I won't let you two have your way completely. Chapter 48. The Conspiracy of the High-Level Officials. Sarutobi Ryo watched Dans leave. Unusually courteous, either treacherous or a thief. Sarutobi Ryo understood what Dan's wanted to do with his toes. These people are so sure. The Hokage candidates will be one of the three: himself, Minato Namikaze, and Orochimaru. What about Tsukumo Hatake then? Should he die? The next Hokage may not be Tsukumo Hatake. After all, Tsukumo Hatake's dream is to be a hermit. But just say it clearly. 43. Section 43. Why did they have to design a trap for him layer by layer? Does the old saying really apply? When the birds are gone, the good bough is stored away. When the cunning rabbit dies, the hunting dog is cooked. Ringo Amuri's experience and the misfortune about to befall Hatake Tsukumo ignited a flame in Sarutobi Ryo's heart. What is the will of fire? What is the will of fire? Sarutobi Ryo, do you have something to say? Hiruzen Sarutobi looked over, sizing up his son. He seemed to have noticed the anger in Sarutobi Ryo's eyes. Nothing, father. Maybe I've encountered a bottleneck in my training. Sarutobi Ryo made an excuse. Is that so? Hiruzen Sarutobi thought for a moment and decided to visit his son at night. Come to think of it, as a father, he hadn't really guided him much from childhood. Now, this child has proven himself through his own abilities. It's time to pass on some of the Sarutobi clan's traditions to him. Hiruzen Sarutobi made the arrangements in his heart, which was exactly what Sarutobi Ryo wanted. There are some things that Sarutobi Ryo really wanted to say to his father. For the next period of time, Sarutobi Ryo, you should rest well and heal your injuries first. Biwa Lake took over the conversation, clearly satisfied with her eldest son's performance. Yes, mother. Sarutobi Ryo nodded and turned to leave the Hokage's office. Young Master Ryo. Outside the door, Minato Namikaze nodded to Sarutobi Ryo. Sarutobi Ryo returned the greeting. Watching Sarutobi Ryo leave, soon, Konoha Udatane and Hamura Mikoto also walked out of the office. That's Sarutobi Ryo. He's becoming more and more arrogant lately. Konoha Udatane scolded as she walked. He used to be quiet and reserved, not saying much. How has he changed so much now? Perhaps he's been influenced by Danzo. Hamura Mikoto speculated. These conversations were heard clearly by Minato Namikaze, who was following behind. When he heard that Sarutobi Ryo had successively killed the Guardian Shinobi 12 and Raiga Kurasuke, he couldn't help but reveal surprise. Young Master Ryo. So he's that powerful. Minato Namikaze quickly responded. To become Hokage, one needs to go through several steps. First, official endorsement from the Fire Country Daimyo. Second, endorsement from the Konoha higher-ups. Third, an election by the Jonin. Back then, the third Hokage was appointed by the second Hokage, which led to a lot of people being dissatisfied after returning to the village. After all, Hiruzen Sarutobi was too young at the time. To appease the crowd, Konoha Udatane, Hamura Mikoto, and Danzo put in a lot of effort. Through alliances and manipulations, they persuaded many clans. This turned Konoha's higher-ups into a system of for people. The reason why Konoha Udatane, Hamura Mikoto, and Danzo had so much say was that they had helped Hiruzen Sarutobi secure his path to becoming Hokage back then. In other words, Konoha Udatane, Hamura Mikoto, and Danzo actually represented the interests of a large number of clans beneath Konoha. Later, as time passed, the structure of Konoha underwent some changes. When Konoha was first established, it was mainly composed of clan ninjas. Now, the number of civilian ninjas has surpassed that of clan ninjas, becoming a significant influence in the populace. This group of people has no clan, no inheritance. It is impossible for Konoha Udatane and Hamura Mikoto to buy them off like they bought off the clan ninjas. Therefore, they devised a plan to dig a pit for Hatake Tsukumo, preparing to ruin Hatake Tsukumo's reputation among the people. When the time comes, Hatake Tsukumo, who has lost support, will not be able to threaten the next Hokage election. The ordinary civilian ninjas who originally supported Hatake Tsukumo will also turn to support others. That person is Minato Namikaze. This is the complete plan of Konoha Udatane, Hamura Mikoto, and Danzo. Of course, Danzo does not support Minato Namikaze, which is different from the two advisors. But the three of them have a unified plan to ruin Hitaki Tsukumo's reputation. But, esteemed advisors, I believe that the most likely person to become the fourth Hokage should be Mr. Tsukumo. Minato Namikaze, unaware of the situation, voiced his doubts. He might be able to compete to become the fifth Hokage. But competing for the fourth Hokage is clearly no match for Hitaki Tsukumo. The two are at least a generation apart, which has widened the gap in experience and reputation. When Mr. Tsukumo became famous, I was still playing in the mud. Ha! Koharu Yuditane sneered, revealing an inscrutable smile. Before long, you will understand. Minato Namikaze wanted to say something, but Hamura Mikoto waved his hand. Minato, work hard. The position of fourth Hokage will be yours. Even though it was daytime, Minato Namikaze felt a chill. The two advisors faced away from the window, and the sunlight shone in, making their faces even more sinister. I understand. After saying softly, Minato Namikaze bowed and took his leave. A young Hokage is always better than the powerful Konoha White Fang. After Minato Namikaze left, Koharu Yuditane spoke again. Minato Namikaze's youth is his greatest advantage. In contrast, Hitaki Tsukumo has experienced too much and is too unconventional, making him difficult to control. Therefore, he is not suitable to be Hokage. But after all, Hitaki Tsukumo has a son, Hitaki Kakashi. With a weakness, he can be easily manipulated. What exactly are the two higher-ups planning? Minato Namikaze walked out of the Hokage building, muttering to himself. He couldn't understand why the two higher-ups were so sure that he would be the fourth Hokage. Could it be? An impossible possibility made Minato Namikaze stop in his tracks. The scene of Sarutobi Ryo educating Kakashi flashed through his mind, and the meaningful look that Ryo gave him at the end. Just as Minato Namikaze's eyes slowly widened, a figure he hadn't seen for several years blocked the sun in front of him. Yo, Minato, long time no see. Minato Namikaze, Jiraiya. Sensei. Chapter 49. The Great Toad Sage's Prophecy During the Second Shinobi World War. Konoha, Sunagakure, and Iwagakure invaded Amagakure. To make amends, Jiraiya actively chose to stay in Amagakure to teach 3 orphans. He taught them for 3 years. 3 years later, Jiraiya returned and went back to Konoha. Minato, after not seeing you for a few years, you've become a very handsome young man. Jiraiya picked up his teacup and took a sip. At this time, he had already arrived at Minato Namikaze's home. Jiraiya-sensei doesn't seem to have changed at all, Minato Namikaze said with a smile, clearly very happy in his heart. After exchanging pleasantries for a moment, Jiraiya looked at the photo on the cabinet. It was a group photo. Back then, he took a group photo as a Jonin instructor with 3 genin. Where are the other 2 little guys? In the photo, a boy and a girl of the same age surrounded Minato Namikaze on his left and right sides. Jiraiya was in the back. Minato Namikaze in the photo looked very young, still like a child. They died in battle. Minato Namikaze's tone became heavy. Is that so? Jiraiya took a deep breath, and a melancholy atmosphere spread out. Just as the quiet atmosphere completely enveloped the place, footsteps approached from far to near. Minato-sensei. Kakashi ran in with a dissatisfied face, intending to have Minato-sensei conduct special training to address his weaknesses. But he didn't expect to encounter a guest present. This is an unfamiliar face. He hadn't seen him before. Minato Namikaze. Kakashi, let me introduce you. This is my benefactor, Jiraiya-sama. 44. Section 44. Kakashi was stunned for a moment, then became excited. Lord Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, was actually right in front of him. This little guy, why does he look a bit like? Jiraiya stroked his chin, a familiar face appearing in his mind. Kakashi is the son of Tsukumo. He's currently under my command. Minato Namikaze introduced him immediately. Huh, Jiraiya laughed. Minato, you're amazing. Tsukumo's son has become your student? It seems you've made great progress in these few years. When Minato Namikaze said that he had saved Kushina and was allowed to view the Book of Seals once, eventually learning the S-rank Flying Thunder God technique. It was Jiraiya's turn to be shocked. The second Hokage's technique? Truly amazing. Jiraiya's shock was not without reason, because even the old man hadn't learned the Flying Thunder God technique. This kind of talent was enough to prove that Minato was qualified to become Hokage. No wonder. Jiraiya shook his head repeatedly. Before returning to the village, he had heard of his disciple's nickname, the Yellow Flash. He originally thought it was just speed, but he didn't expect it was actually the Flying Thunder God technique. In that case, Minato, there's no time to lose. You should go to Mount Maiboku to learn Sage Mode. He's already learned the Flying Thunder God technique. Sage Mode must also be arranged. Only then will he be qualified to compete with Tsukumo for the position of Hokage. Knowing that Minato's dream since childhood was to become Hokage, Jiraiya strongly affirmed his disciple's dream. The war has already ended, and perhaps the next Hokage will be chosen at any time. So, he needs to work harder. Leave Kakashi to me. Jiraiya indicated that he would be responsible for teaching Kakashi while Minato went to Mount Maiboku. That's great. Over here, Kakashi snorted, his whole body bursting with excitement. To be guided by the legendary Sannin, wouldn't he become incredibly powerful? The lack of confidence caused by Sarutobi's reprimand had now completely vanished. Kakashi only felt that the path to Hokage was beckoning him. If Master Minato is the fourth Hokage, then I will be the fifth Hokage. Soon, Jiraiya left the summoning scroll for Mount Maiboku and left with Kakashi. Minato Namikaze unrolled the scroll and took a deep breath. Then it's time to go to Mount Maiboku. Not long after, through reverse summoning, Minato Namikaze, summoned to Mount Maiboku by Lord Fukasaku and Lady Shima, began to look around. Mount Maiboku, along with Shikatsu Forest and Richie Cave, are known as the three great sacred places. Lord Fukasaku and Lady Shima nodded, affirming Minato Namikaze's talent. But before that, come with us. The Great Lord wants to see you. Lord Fukasaku and Lady Shima began to lead the way. The Great Lord refers to the actual ruler of Mount Maiboku, the ancient sage, the Great Toad Sage. It is said that the Great Toad Sage is a creature from the era of the Six Path Sage. His lifespan is now over 1,000 years. His excessively large chakra allows him to foresee the future. Minato Namikaze had also heard of the Great Toad Sage making predictions, such as the child of prophecy that Master Jiraiya often talked about. Soon, Minato Namikaze arrived at the palace. Here, he saw the enormous Great Toad Sage. "Great Lord, we have brought little Minato," Lord Fukasaku said, just as Lady Shima thought that the Great Lord would pretend to be crazy again before getting down to business. The Great Toad Sage's words exceeded their expectations. "Child of prophecy, you have come." Lord Fukasaku, Lady Shima, exclamation point. The child of prophecy is the one who will bring peace to the ninja world. Is little Jiraiya's disciple that person? Previously, the Great Toad Sage had not clearly stated who was the true child of prophecy. Little Jiraiya had also been searching everywhere. Now, he said it so clearly. Was something about to happen in the ninja world? Lord Fukasaku and Lady Shima, who had lived for 800 years, witnessing the changes in the ninja world and countless events. Their faces visibly became serious. Then, the Great Toad Sage slowly opened his eyes. "Minato Namikaze, your mission has come. I see struggle, death, rebirth. The ninja world will experience violent turmoil." The Great Toad Sage spoke to himself, and Minato Namikaze could only listen with wide eyes. Everything started not long ago. Not long ago, Minato Namikaze immediately recalled the destruction of the Hidden Sky Village. That's right, from the moment the Hidden Sky Village was destroyed, many things changed. The Great Toad Sage looked up at the sky, where white clouds drifted. The originally clear future has become blurred and fragmented. Even I can't accurately judge all the things of the future. The established trajectory has been broken. Perhaps many things will change. Great Lord, can the future be changed? Minato Namikaze raised his eyes and voiced his doubts. Originally, The great Toad Sage predicted the child of destiny, but now he says the future is blurred. The great Toad Sage nodded. Yes, fate is determined by oneself. When a force that is too good or too evil appears, the prophecy will not go in the intended direction. Fate cannot restrain people who are extremely good or extremely evil, and it is because of their participation that many things will be rewritten. Great Toad Sage, in a new future I see, you will fight against that force. That force doesn't want to destroy the ninja world. Minato Namikaze suddenly stood up and asked eagerly. It is destruction. The great Toad Sage's answer made Minato Namikaze, Lord Fukasaku, and Lady Shima's hearts sink. But it is also rebirth. The three! Exclamation point. Great Toad Sage, the cycle of death and rebirth. That's how everything in the world is. Great Lord, I don't understand. Minato Namikaze was a little confused. If he is the child of prophecy, what should he do? Minato Namikaze, if you yearn for a new world, you can avoid fighting that force. But if you want to preserve the old world, then fighting is your destiny. You are that child of prophecy. The great Toad Sage raised his finger and pointed at Minato Namikaze. The choice is mine. Minato Namikaze's eyes were confused. If I don't fight, that is to say, will there be a new child of destiny? That's right. The great Toad Sage put down his finger and nodded. The arrow will choose the destined person. If you sit back and watch everything happen, others will fight that force, thereby creating a new child of destiny. After hearing these words, Minato Namikaze fell into deep thought. Lady Shima couldn't help but ask first, Great Lord, then according to your prediction, that force will destroy the old world and create a new world. Is this good or bad? Good and bad are often determined by perspective. The great Toad Sage's tone became more profound. Humans eat animals. To animals, humans are evil. Conversely, people think it's natural to eat animals. Good and evil are definitions of perspective. Lady Shima frowned. Can you say something that little Minato can understand better? The great Toad Sage was silent. Then he spoke again. All right, Minato Namikaze, I'll tell you the original destined future, and then you can consider making a decision. The great Toad Sage's eyes suddenly widened. The incomparably huge chakra directly pulled Minato Namikaze into the future trajectory that it saw. This is the original trajectory. One by one, nouns, people, and events flashed quickly before Minato Namikaze's eyes, like a movie playing. Seeing these visions was like experiencing the subsequent life himself. The original future, the fourth Hokage, marrying Kushina, having children, Naruto Uzumaki. The current future, fragmented and blurred scenes, the destruction of the old world, the deviation of the trajectory. Minato Namikaze's eyes spun, and the excessive amount of information made him sway. Fortunately, this pain didn't last long. When the great Toad Sage stopped, Minato Namikaze immediately knelt on one knee, panting heavily. 45. Section 45 at this moment. Great Toad Sage also closed his eyes. No matter how Sage Zitma inquired, it remained silent. Two different futures flashed before Minato Namikaze's eyes, and his expression became extremely heavy. Chapter 50. Rin Noera Afternoon Dusk. Next to the Hokage building, a dark alley, the Umbu entrance. Sarutobi Ryo stood with his hands behind his back, gazing ahead. Soon, footsteps sounded, and Yamanaka K walked over. Young master, Tsukumo-sensei is still in the village. Just now, Sarutobi Ryo had Yamanaka K go to Hatake Tsukumo's place and made an excuse to freeload dinner tonight. Even many manhole covers eventually connect to Umbu or Root's lair. In the dark underground, figures flickered. From time to time, people from Umbu and Root came and went. They focused on their own affairs, at most glancing at Sarutobi Ryo before leaving. Obviously, they had already received Danzo's order and knew about Sarutobi Ryo joining Umbu. Walking all the way, passing through layers of tunnels. Finally, a spacious underground hall suddenly opened up before them, entering Sarutobi Ryo and Yamanaka-Kei's field of vision. This place was divided into several areas. It could be clearly seen that there were area markers, such as training areas, scroll storage, and preparation rooms. Sarutobi Ryo didn't even think about it and went straight to the scroll storage. Umbu recorded many secret materials, including not only various secrets, but also special records. For example, human experiments. Although on the surface, human experiments have been listed as taboo, Umbu, as a branch profession, walked in the gray area. Obtaining the enemy's corpse naturally required analyzing intelligence, which was something every ninja village would do, and Konoha was no exception. Sarutobi Ryo was wondering if he could find some information about bloodline limits here. Young master, I'll help you. Yamanaka-Kei understood his intentions and directly started searching from another bookshelf. After a while, footsteps came, and Aburame Ryoma walked in. Young Master Ryo, we meet again. Congratulations. What Aburame Ryoma was congratulating was naturally the fact that Sarutobi Ryo would be appointed as Umbu's squad leader in a week. Joining Umbu and being promoted so quickly would inevitably cause controversy among outsiders. At that time, some bad public opinions would inevitably spread in Konoha. However, since it was Lord Danzo's appointment, Aburame Ryoma naturally obeyed. Ryoma-sensei, you came at the right time. I was just about to look up some information about bloodline limits. I wonder if there is any clue in this regard. Sarutobi Ryo put down the scroll in his hand and turned to look at the other party. Bloodline limit. Aburame Ryoma was immediately surprised. The first thing young Master Ryo did when he came to the Umbu base was to look up the content about bloodline limits. He thought about it and felt that it made sense. After all, young Master Ryo's father, the third Hokage, was proficient in 7 attributes, but he didn't have a bloodline limit. About the content of the bloodline limit, Aburame Ryoma pondered slightly. I'm afraid this level of secret needs to be reported to Lord Danzo. After thinking about it, Aburame Ryoma gave such an answer. The scroll storage here did not contain any content about bloodline limits. You can't make the decision. Sarutobi Ryo frowned slightly. It seemed to be just an unconscious change in his face. But in Aburame Ryoma's eyes, it was sharp and exposed, and even the air seemed to become a bit heavier. What a strong sense of oppression. Aburame Ryoma frowned secretly in his heart. If it were other ordinary Umbu ninjas, they would probably be a little timid in their hearts after being glared at like this. But after all, he was Danzo's right-hand man and a long-established strongman. So, Aburame Ryoma just slightly raised the corners of his mouth, and his tone was deliberately amiable. It's not good to openly research bloodline limit information. After all, we have to take into account the feelings of various families. In Konoha, there were several bloodline limit families alone, although no one from the Hyuga and Uchiha clans was in Umbu. Sarutobi Ryo nodded, knowing that he couldn't get anything from here, so he directly took Yamanaka-Kei and left. Aburame Ryoma's eyes, under his sunglasses, stared at the two leaving, and his expression slowly changed. Originally, with his background and reputation, people would be very frightened when they saw him. But unfortunately, this young master's identity and background were even stronger than him. Moreover, in terms of personality, this young master is completely different from his father, the third Hokage. If Sarutobi Hiruzen was indecisive, kind, and benevolent, then the feeling that Sarutobi Ryo gave Aburame Ryoma was that he was very sharp and had a very strong sense of self. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for Umbu en route? Aburame Ryoma thought about it and decided to tell his superior, Lord Danzo, about what had just happened. Coming to the surface, the two walked all the way and soon left the starting point. Young master, aren't you going to find that old man Danzo? Yamanaka-Kei followed behind and asked. Since Aburame Ryoma said to ask Danzo, then you can completely try to go directly to the old guy. It's meaningless. Sarutobi Ryo shook his head and didn't plan to find Danzo. In the original work, Danzo recruited Orochimaru, transplanted Hashirama cells, and fiddled with Sharingan. There must be a lot of research data on bloodline limits. There is also a supplement in the official novel that Danzo had a medical team belonging to him, specializing in various human experiments, and obtained various results. But once you find Danzo, it is easy to get on the pirate's ship, which is not cost-effective. Therefore, Sarutobi Ryo still decided to break through from another direction and additionally find someone to study the Snow Clan Ice release remains obtained from Ringo Amuri. Let's go. Go directly to Tsukumo Sensei's place. There will always be a way when the time comes. Sarutobi Ryo decided to go to Hitaki Tsukumo's place first. At the same time, Hitaki Tsukumo's house. Dad, why don't you want me to join Minato Sensei's command? Kakashi, who had finished a day of training with Jiraiya, encountered his father, who was going to report to the higher-ups on his way home. Hitaki Tsukumo explained to the higher-ups, requesting to transfer Kakashi and transfer him to the command of other jonin, but was severely rejected by the higher-ups, such as Koharu Yuditane. Sitting on the tatami in his own living room, Hitaki Tsukumo was a little embarrassed at the moment, because he didn't know how to open his mouth to his son. Among the many jonin who can serve as guiding jonin, there should be no one more excellent than Minato-sensei. Kakashi, sitting across from the low table, had drooping eyelids and was quite angry in his eyes. Or, do you think I should be guided by young Master Ryo? Kakashi mentioned Sarutobi Ryo, and he became even more angry in his stomach. He crossed his arms like a little adult. He was very worried about what Sarutobi Ryo said during the day. Kakashi, in short, Hitaki Tsukumo hesitated, and at this moment, there was a sound of talking in the yard outside. The father and son looked out together, and several figures quickly came into view. Kakashi, Rin, Obito. At this time, in the courtyard, Sarutobi Ryo and Yamanaka Kei, who came to visit, happened to meet two children who also came. One wearing goggles was Uchiha Obito, who would be obsessed with love in later generations. And the other, a little girl with purple tape on her face, was naturally the source of everything, Rin Noera. Seeing the little girl in front of him, Sarutobi Ryo's gaze slowly became hot. Of course, the system did not pop up a prompt. Or maybe it's not time yet. In short, there seemed to be a perfect opportunity in front of him. Young Master Ryo, Uchiha Obito, stood at attention and greeted loudly and politely. In comparison, Noera Rin was much more well-behaved. She sweetly said a greeting, and Sarutobi Ryo nodded slightly. Noera Rin, I've heard of you. Noera Rin was slightly taken aback. According to some teachers at the ninja school, you have a very outstanding talent for medical ninjutsu, and you often go to Konoha Hospital to volunteer, and the medical ninjas also praise you a lot. Is that so? Sarutobi Ryo looked at her. At a young age, Noera Rin already had the appearance of a beauty. Coupled with her gentle and sunny personality, it was no wonder that Uchiha Obito would be obsessed. Yes, becoming a medical ninja, no less than Tsunade-sama, is my dream. Noera Rin stood up straight immediately, feeling a little nervous. Very good. Sarutobi Ryo nodded and immediately coughed. Noera Rin observed his expression. Her lips pursed slightly. After a few seconds, she said, Young Master Ryo, are you injured? It looks like an old injury that hasn't healed. Sarutobi Ryo stopped coughing and gave his approval. Not a disease, but an injury. Her judgment was completely correct. Could you please help me diagnose it, by the way? Sarutobi Ryo made an inviting gesture, inviting Noera Rin to the living room of Hitaki Tsukumo's house for a chat. This was a very good start. After that, perhaps he could let Noera Rin help study the remains. Now that Kakashi had graduated early, Noera Rin and Uchiha Obito were still studying at the ninja school. According to the development in the original work, it would take some time for the two to catch up. This also showed that Noera Rin had not yet gone to Minato Namake's command, and he could win her over in advance. After all, in terms of medical ninjutsu talent, few people in Konoha could compare to her. Sarutobi Ryo. Test the waters first, see the specific situation before making plans. Chapter 51. Gift. Not long after, sitting in the living room, Sarutobi Ryo was already receiving Noera Rin's diagnosis. 46. Section 46 nearby. Yamanaka Hui was still a bit curious, but soon that curiosity turned into surprise. A shimmering green light shone. In terms of rank, it had actually reached beer rank, which is the level of a jonin. Seeing Yamanaka Hui's surprised expression, Sarutobi Ryo thought, this is nothing yet. In 2 years, Noera Rin will even learn A-rank mystical palm technique. You should know, the A-rank mystical palm technique, although it seems to appear many times in manga, the official databook, Book of Array, clearly states. Even in Konoha, with its advanced medical system, only a few elite medical personnel can master the mystical palm technique. It's an extremely rare existence. From this, you can see just how strong Noera Rin's talent truly is. The A-rank mystical palm technique is already the normal ceiling in the medical world. Above that, only Tsunade's S-rank strength of 100 seal, Chiyo's reanimation jutsu, and Hashirama Senju's seal-less self-healing can compare. For medical experts, mastering the A-rank mystical palm technique is enough to allow them to roam the ninja world unhindered. After all, there is never a shortage of combat personnel, but every medical expert is a highly sought-after treasure. Orochimaru in the original story even needed Yakushi Kabuto, who was proficient in medical ninjutsu, as an assistant to solve many difficult problems. The role of medical ninjas is far more than just being able to cure diseases. With just a little guidance, they can go far on the path of human body research. Young Master Ryo, you'll be fine after resting for a few more days. Noera Rin stopped her treatment and wrote out a few prescriptions for Sarutobi Ryo. Watching her speak so logically, Sarutobi Ryo couldn't help but nod slightly, even more approving. To become a medical ninja, one first needs intelligence, followed by a wealth of knowledge reserves, which is wisdom. Among their peers, Noera Rin, Kakashi, Obito, Ibiki, Ebisu, Noera Rin's wisdom value is probably the highest. The lowest is Obito, with only a wisdom of 2. Kakashi, congratulations on becoming a genin. Obito spoke his purpose for coming. When they learned that the reason Kakashi had left the academy was because he had graduated early, the students in the class were all very shocked. Obito felt even more that he had fallen far behind. But no matter what, congratulations were still in order. Yeah, Kakashi, who was very arrogant, took the gift from Obito. Of course, he had also received a gift from Rin earlier. Casually putting down the gift, Kakashi looked at Sarutobi Ryo, who was chatting with Rin, and couldn't help but have some calculations in his heart. Young Master Ryo, today I even met one of the Sannin, Lord Jiraiya. Kakashi looked proud, actually still brooding over Sarutobi Ryo's remarks during the day. Lord Jiraiya taught me cultivation for the whole day. This kind of showing off and competitive mentality is very common at this age. Kakashi, whose father was still alive, had not experienced the warmth and coldness of human relationships, nor had he experienced life and death, was indeed very immature. You can't. Sarutobi Ryo glared over, directly denying Kakashi again. Kakashi immediately became anxious, and someone was even more anxious than him, Obito. How can you say that about Kakashi? Kakashi is a genius unanimously recognized by the teachers. Obito gritted his teeth. Although he was also very unconvinced by Kakashi, it was indeed a fact that Kakashi was the most powerful genius. Obito will surpass you in the future. Sarutobi Ryo turned his head, pointed out by name, and pointed out Obito's future achievements. This time, Obito was happy. Haha, Rin, did you hear that? Young Master Ryo praised me. I said, I will definitely become very powerful in the future. Kakashi's cheeks instantly flushed red. Even inferior to Obito? How is that possible? At this time, Kakashi didn't think that this idiot Obito could surpass him in the future at all. He snorted and got up, walking towards the outside of the courtyard, treating Sarutobi Ryo as if he was talking nonsense. Kakashi. Seeing that Kakashi was unhappy, Noera Rin's expression changed slightly, and she immediately got up and chased out. Rin. Obito followed closely behind. From this, you can see the relationship between the three people. Noera Rin admires Kakashi, and Obito secretly loves Noera Rin. As for Kakashi, although he is a blockhead now, he will gradually become enlightened later. In the official manga, Kakashi's relationship with Noera Rin became closer and closer, even to the point where they were arm in arm, and Kakashi took the initiative to put his hand on Noera Rin's shoulder. Until Obito died, Kakashi refused Noera Rin's confession out of guilt. In the end, Noera Rin, who did not get a response, logically chose the path of crashing into Kakashi's Chidori. The three people's relationships are complicated and chaotic. The three good children eventually embarked on a tragic path. Actually, things don't have to be so troublesome. Young master, you seem to care a lot about these two children. The noise gradually faded away, and only Yamanaka Hui and Sarutobi Ryo were left in the living room. The aroma wafted from the kitchen. Hatake Tsukumo was making dinner. Sarutobi Ryo. These two people will have unlimited achievements in the future. Seeing his young master give such a high evaluation to the two children, Yamanaka Hui was speechless for a while. I can understand that the little girl named Noera Rin has outstanding medical talent, but that one named Obito, to put it bluntly, the Uchiha clan is shouted at and beaten by everyone in the upper echelons of Konoha and has always been excluded and discriminated against. Normal people would not want to have any close ties with them. Half a century after the founding of Konoha, the Uchiha clan has not been able to enter the core of Konoha and can only be in the police force, serving as a low-ranking official or a city management security guard, fighting wits and courage with vendors selling vegetables every day. Moreover, that child named Obito looks silly at first glance. After another period of time, the three children who were playing outside came back. Obito was a little bruised and swollen. Noera Rin looked reproachful, and Kakashi looked refreshed. The development of the incident is self-evident. Obito, whose confidence exploded because of Sarutobi Ryo's words, felt that he could do it again and went to provoke Kakashi, but was beaten badly. And Kakashi, who had vented his anger, was even more disbelieving of Sarutobi Ryo's remarks. Dinner's ready. At this time, Hatake Tsukumo brought out the last main dish, grilled sori. Looking at the table full of food, Obito was immediately excited. Wow, so much delicious food. The richness can be compared to the New Year's feast made by Grandma. Looking at Obito's happy appearance with drool, Hatake Tsukumo was naturally very happy. The two of you, Kakashi will also need your care in the future. As Kakashi's childhood friend, Obito and Noera Rin grew up playing with Kakashi. Although they are temporarily separated after graduation, Hatake Tsukumo believes that the three of them will definitely become comrades in the future. Young Master Ryo, did you bring a souvenir? At this time, Kakashi's gaze swept over. Coming here for free meals every now and then without bringing gifts. Sarutobi Ryo didn't speak. He calmly reached into his arms and took out a scroll. Release. Smoke rose, releasing some things from it. First, a short sword. Kakashi, the spendthrift, should stop thinking about his father's white fang. In the original story, Kakashi was the only fool who took the white fang short sword, without enchantment, just a blank slate, and went straight to hard steel the enemy's knife, resulting in a broken sword. This is a knife produced by Kirigakure. It is a trophy obtained by the young master after killing an enemy. Yamanaka, Hui leaned over and immediately explained. Kakashi's eyes lit up, and he immediately picked up the knife and examined it. The short sword gleamed with cold light, stained with a bloody aura. Although it is not a peerless famous sword, its material and forging technique are types that Konoha cannot forge. Good knife, Kakashi muttered, very satisfied with his Genin graduation gift. Teacher, this is your gift. Sarutobi Ryo took out another item and gave it to Hatake Tsukumo. A powerhouse like Hatake Tsukumo has carried out countless S-rank missions and does not lack money. So a small gift with great meaning is enough. Teapots, furniture, pendants, these things were all obtained from the guardian ninja, Kunoichi. Hatake Tsukumo's home decoration is slightly ordinary, and these embellishments will add a lot of color. Thank you. Hatake Tsukumo accepted the gift, his eyes narrowed into crescents, looking very happy. After dinner, the three children went to Kakashi's room to continue discussing cultivation and daily life. In the living room, Hatake Tsukumo and Sarutobi Ryo and Yamanaka Hui continued to talk about things. My dream is to live a peaceful life and not want to participate in the political infighting. Hatake Tsukumo's tone was a little lost. The previous efforts failed. The higher-ups, no matter what, would not agree to transfer Kakashi from under Minato Namikaze. Sarutobi Ryo thought. It seems that the high-level officials of Konoha are determined to harm Hatake Tsukumo. Thinking of Rin Yuli's experience, Sarutobi Ryo felt that he couldn't sit idly by. This is also the real purpose of coming here today. Konoha has begun to pave the way for plotting against Hatake Tsukumo, and he should also prepare for rescue in advance. Teacher Tsukumo, if the village falls into crisis and someone needs to turn the tide and take on the role of Hokage, that person, if it happens to be you, teacher. Sarutobi Ryo's eyes were bright, and he stared at the gentle man in front of him. Hatake Tsukumo looks like a nice guy, but in terms of talent, he is indeed the most suitable candidate for the fourth Hokage. The question raised by Sarutobi Ryo made Hatake Tsukumo slightly stunned. Then he scratched his head and nodded slightly. Then I can only take on the responsibility in times of crisis. That's right. 47. Section 47. Tsukumo Hatake was that kind of man. He didn't want to be Hokage. But if the village was in danger, even if it required him to temporarily become Hokage, he would definitely stand up for his comrades, for the village that raised him. Tsukumo-sensei, if during a mission, a comrade encounters danger, and not completing the mission would cause significant losses to the country, then what would you choose? Sarutobi Ryo raised the second question. It was also the dilemma that led to Tsukumo Hatake's suicide. Tsukumo Hatake smiled, his eyes narrowing into crescents once more. He answered with an unwavering and firm tone. I would absolutely never watch a comrade die before my eyes. Of course, he would choose his comrades. Sarutobi Ryo nodded. This was the White Fang of Konoha, a man who would dedicate everything for his comrades and for the village. However, it was such a man who was schemed against and persecuted by the higher-ups, ultimately proving his integrity with his death. He would rather die than abandon his beliefs. For this reason, he waited for Kakashi for more than a decade on the path to the afterlife to show his attitude. Kakashi eventually understood his father's beliefs. Walls have ears, teacher. Let's go to the study next door for a chat. Sarutobi Ryo stood up, gesturing to Hatake Tsukumo to talk in the study next door. The environment there was quiet, and no one would eavesdrop. The following conversation was not suitable for anyone to hear. Chapter 52. Rin no Era. Young Master Ryo is handsome and rich inside the study. The two high-ranking officials, Koharu Yuditane and Hamura Mitokado, favor Minato Namikaze, believing that he should be the next Hokage. Danzo has disagreements with the two advisors. Danzo wants to support Orochimaru, as one secret after another came out of Sarutobi Ryo's mouth. The surprise in Hatake Tsukumo's eyes deepened. He was stunned for a long time, unable to react. The power struggles at the top were so complex. This was the difference in perception caused by different upbringing environments. Although Hatake Tsukumo was powerful, he lacked the subtle influence, and his political acumen was not high. Sarutobi Ryo, who was keen on political commentary in his previous life, passively and actively learned too much. Moreover, reading history illuminates wisdom. 5,000 years of history in China has forged a history book of cannibalistic years. Sarutobi Ryo was very familiar with these political tactics and schemes, and he could see through what the three high-ranking officials were up to at a glance. And you, the White Fang of Konoha, your merits overshadow your master. Your strength is too great, too much of an eyesore. Sarutobi Ryo analyzed the pros and cons for Hatake Tsukumo. No matter what Hatake Tsukumo thought, he would be regarded as a thorn in the side by the higher-ups because of his crime of possessing a treasure. This was different from Jiraiya. Jiraiya one of the Sannin, had the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, as his teacher. Therefore, Jiraiya was regarded as one of their own by Kohyudatane and Hamura Mikoto. The two advisors would not harm him. On the other hand, Hatake Tsukumo was isolated and helpless, without relatives or background. Alone, he became an existence that the higher-ups had to deal with. Sarutobi Ryo, Tsukumo-sensei. Sometimes, not taking sides is also a kind of taking sides. Not taking sides is also a kind of taking sides. Hatake Tsukumo lowered his head, murmuring this sentence, lost in thought. In this world, no one in any country can stay out of it. Wherever there are people, there are political factions, and there are political commentators. Basic political concept. Politics is closely related to everyone. This is definitely not an empty phrase. Hatake Tsukumo's face changed several times, as if struggling. After a long time, he slowly raised his head, looking at Sarutobi Ryo, as if pleading, "Young Master Ryo, if that's the case, then why don't they just tell me directly? Why not say some things directly, but have to beat around the bush?" Sarutobi Ryo slowly stood up, looking out the window. During the chaotic Warring States period, a philosopher named Shurin once said, "I know their methods. They are unwilling to kill directly, and they dare not, for fear of misfortune. So they all connect, fill the net, and force me to commit suicide." Kakashi goodbye. In the courtyard, Kakashi bid farewell to his two young companions. At this time, Sarutobi Ryo and Yamanaka Ino also came out of the study. "Where's father?" Kakashi turned his head, not seeing his father off, which was strange. "Tsukumo-sensei is a little tired. Kakashi will go first," Sarutobi Ryo said casually. Watching the figures of several people slowly disappear into the darkness, Kakashi scratched his head, not noticing anything. Walking on the road, Sarutobi Ryo, Rin Noera, and Obito were walking together. I can take this opportunity to send Rin home." Obito was secretly happy, feeling happy for having the opportunity to show off. On this side, Sarutobi Ryo took the lead in launching an attack. "Rin Noera, although it's late, I still have something I want to ask you. It's about Umbu." Hearing the word Umbu, Obito and Rin Nohara's expressions froze. In the eyes of ordinary people, Umbu is the most secretive and mysterious existence. It is also a department similar to unspeakable. Obito immediately closed his mouth, wanting to go home. After all, Umbu's secrets were not something that a primary school student like him could listen to. "Obito, I will personally send Rin back later. Please rest assured." Sarutobi Ryo gestured at the same time, issuing an eviction order. "Oh, Rin, I'm going home first, goodbye." Obito waved his hand and immediately ran away. Umbu. Rin Noera couldn't help but look at this young master. Under the moonlight, that already handsome face was plated with a layer of mysterious brilliance, making her a little dizzy. The sense of maturity on the other person's body was also completely unmatched by Kakashi. "Oh my Rin, what are you thinking?" Just as Rin Nohara's thoughts were in confusion, Sarutobi Ryo spoke again. On the Umbu side, a certain expert, Nono Yakushi, has gone on a mission, so the work of researching and analyzing the enemy's remains has been delayed. I am very anxious about this. Having injected the will of fire into Ringo Aim Yuri, he also obtained the remains of a Jonin from the Yuki clan. Currently, everything is ready except for the wind. Only a medical expert is needed to unlock the mysteries of the remains. My life is up to me. The system is a prompt to guide, but the fate of the strong is ultimately in their own hands. Sarutobi Ryo believed that this was also the meaning of the system's existence. "Today I saw your medical ninjutsu and felt that your talent might be able to help me unlock the secrets of the remains. Rin Noera, can I entrust you with this?" Sarutobi Ryo put his hands behind his back and stopped. Under the moonlight, Sarutobi Ryo looked down at the little girl in front of him. Sarutobi Ryo's resolute and handsome face made Rin Noera nod her head in a ghostly manner. "No problem, young Master Ryo." More than 10 minutes later, the Sarutobi clan's residence, the third Hokage's ancestral home. A corpse was placed on the platform, surrounded by all kinds of surgical tools. Alarm barriers and traps were set up around the room. You need to rely on the password to enter and exit freely. Sarutobi Ryo told Rin Noera the password, giving her the authority to enter and exit freely. Rin Noera also promised to help keep it a secret. After all, Umbu's work is all confidential. This is the advance payment, a total of 30,000 Ryo. You count it first. Sarutobi Ryo took a bag, which contained money. The reward for a D-level mission averages around 5,000 Ryo, because it needs to be split with the guiding Jonin and 2 teammates. After deducting the taxes paid to the village, a Jinin can get about 500 Ryo. 30,000 Ryo is equivalent to the reward for 60 D-level missions, or 10 C-level missions. For Rin Noera, this was undoubtedly a windfall, a huge sum of money. This is just the advance payment. If the analysis is successful, I will pay you another 150,000 Ryo. How about it? 150,000 Ryo is equivalent to the after-tax income of a Jonin performing 2 A-level missions alone. Rin Noera widened her eyes, her whole person directly stunned. There was no way this was really too much. Originally, with Sarutobi Ryo's qualifications as a newly promoted Jonin, he would not be able to come up with so much money. But this situation changed as Sarutobi Ryo defeated the guardian female ninja and took over the port town's industry from her. With the wharf transportation business in hand, Sarutobi Ryo was already a predictable future rich man. Ninjas come out to mix. In addition to lofty ideals, they also need food, clothing, and shelter. Or rather, only when material needs are met can they better pursue their dreams. Young Master Ryo is really handsome and rich. Rin Noera thought silently in her heart and immediately nodded in agreement. Although she didn't have any pursuit of material things, buying herbs and studying medicine also cost a lot of money. Now that such a good opportunity was in front of her, and she could also contribute to the village, Rin Noera was of course very happy. As the cloth was lifted, the remains of a Yuki clan's ninja were presented in front of Rin Noera. 48, Section 48. Rin, this is the corpse of the Snow Clan ninja that I acquired. I was thinking, is it possible to analyze the combination of wind and water chakra attributes to obtain information about the ice release, Kekkei Genkai? Sarutobi Ryo said, pointing to the corpse of the Jonin killed by Ringo Amuri. In this regard, I have to rely on you, a professional medical ninja, giving money and giving confidence a series of praises. Sarutobi Ryo initially won over Noera Rin. Sarutobi Ryo believed that this was a very good start. Young Master, the Hokage has arrived. Yamanaka Hui pushed open the door and entered, saying softly, "Okay, I understand. Hui, you stay here and accompany Rin. If she needs anything, help her find it." Sarutobi Ryo nodded, instructed her, and then left this secret room. Chapter 53. Who is the suitable Hokage candidate? Father, mother. In the courtyard at night, Sarutobi Ryo met his parents. Asuma was not there, probably being disciplined. In fact, with Asuma's talent, he could have graduated with Kakashi. It's just that Asuma was obsessed with beauty at a young age and was reluctant to part with Yuhi Kurenai, wanted to graduate with Yuhi Kurenai, which led to him still being in the Ninja Academy. "Well, Shinosuke, have you had dinner?" Sarutobi Hiruzen put his hands behind his back and began to ask about his well-being. He was quite satisfied with this eldest son. Judging from his defeat of the Guardian Ninja and Kurahachi Raiga, his talent is not a cause for concern. Then what remains is the consideration of his understanding of the will of fire. Last time, at the entrance of the Umbu office, there was a conversation between father and son. Talented people recognized by the public can become Hokage, but the eldest son felt that the majority of people are sometimes not necessarily right. So Sarutobi Hiruzen prepared to continue listening to his eldest son's thoughts tonight. "I have carefully considered what you said last time." Sarutobi Hiruzen happily entered the house with his eldest son. Sarutobi Ryo invited his parents to sit down and poured them each a cup of hot tea. A slight digression, Shinosuke was Sarutobi Ryo's nickname. Because it was too speechless, Sarutobi Ryo applied to change his name. "Father, Please call me Sarutobi Ryo, Sarutobi Ryo said casually. Well, Sarutobi Ryo, in your opinion, who is most suitable to become the next Hokage? Sarutobi Hiruzen took the teacup and asked with a smile, not caring. Since his eldest son was so confident that he could comprehend the will of fire, he might as well test him. Sarutobi Ryo replied without hesitation, reporting to father, from an ordinary person's perspective, the ones who can become the fourth Hokage are Konoha White Fang and the Sannin. As for Sarutobi Ryo, he himself does have the ambition to become Hokage, but he is not old enough. Before the Third Shinobi World War arrives, he is still young. Even Minato Namikaze is not enough to convince the public. Or rather, everyone would never choose a teenager to be Hokage. In this era, everyone's attention is on Hatake Tsukumo and the Sannin. In terms of combat power, the Sannin are inferior to White Fang. Sarutobi Ryo pointed out the gap in combat power between the four. The Sannin are in one tier, and Hatake Tsukumo is in another. Of course, becoming Hokage is not all about combat power. Considering that Tsunade has hemophobia and has left, her possibility of becoming Hokage can be ruled out. As for Jiraiya, it can be said that he has no interest in the position of Hokage, so he can also be ruled out. The remaining possibility lies between Orochimaru and Hatake Tsukumo. Well, so, Orochimaru and Hatake Tsukumo. Who is the most suitable after all? Sarutobi Hiruzen took a sip of tea, his face expressionless. In fact, he already had an answer in his heart. In the eyes of outsiders, Orochimaru is the Hokage's beloved disciple, and his military achievements are equally outstanding. In terms of strength, he is the top existence among the Sannin. He is also the only strong person who may be able to compete with Hatake Tsukumo in the future. After all, Orochimaru is still young and has a lot of room for improvement in the future. However, there are some problems with Orochimaru. Let alone, Sarutobi Hiruzen saw the malice in Orochimaru's eyes. Just talking about the official databook, which once evaluated Sarutobi Hiruzen's skills. It said, even Orochimaru could not fully inherit Sarutobi Hiruzen's talent inheritance. Sarutobi Hiruzen was very regretful about this. A lifetime of skills began to be lost after death. This shows that Orochimaru's talent is also limited in walking the right path. That's why he chose human experiments, researching forbidden techniques, and other crooked ways. Sarutobi Hiruzen saw the limit of Orochimaru's path, and also saw the malice in Orochimaru's eyes. But most outsiders do not know and cannot see this point. Of course, people's hearts are made of flesh. Even if they can't see some things, it doesn't prevent everyone from subconsciously feeling Orochimaru's indifference. Thus, they respect and stay away from him. The final result is that Orochimaru's popularity is not as good as the others. This is a very fatal point in the Hokage election. So Sarutobi Hiruzen is not worried that Orochimaru will be elected Hokage. He already has an answer in his heart. The fourth Hokage will be Hatake Tsukumo. Orochimaru is not suitable. As soon as Sarutobi Ryo spoke, Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes changed. He knew that his eldest son had a slightly aloof personality and spoke directly. But being straightforward is not related to having a sharp eye. Why? Sarutobi Hiruzen and Bawako asked with their eyes. To be Hokage, one needs to seek the welfare of the village. From Orochimaru's eyes, I only see selfishness. He does not have the will of fire. Sarutobi Ryo made things clear in one sentence. No matter what kind of talent Orochimaru possesses, he has already gone astray from the root of his thinking. If Orochimaru becomes Hokage, Konoha will become as dilapidated as Otogakure in the original work, becoming his playground for wanton experiments. It is not impossible for Konoha to become the second Kirigakure. How could such a future be the future that everyone expects? It proves a saying, the more knowledge you have, the more reactionary you are if the route is wrong. Orochimaru is such a person. Sarutobi Ryo's straightforwardness slightly surprised Sarutobi Hiruzen. After a while, he nodded and sighed softly. Sarutobi Ryo, your vision is more insightful than I imagined. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen believed that his eldest son possessed the will of fire, as well as the ability to see people. Having an aloof personality may not be a sign of whether one can become Hokage. Possessing the will of fire and seeking the welfare of the village are the Konoha ninjas who have the ability to become Hokage. Very good. Very good. Sarutobi Hiruzen was very pleased with this. The consideration ends here. Sarutobi Hiruzen got up, preparing to impart some things. After tonight's conversation, he had determined that his eldest son could continue to walk on the path of the will of fire. Of course, he is still young, and it is too early to talk about the fifth Hokage. But Sarutobi Hiruzen believed that his eldest son might one day appear on the list to compete for the fifth Hokage. Next, I will impart some skills to you. How much you can comprehend depends on yourself. First is Fire Release Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Sarutobi Hiruzen came to the courtyard, raised his arms, and as he formed hand seals, a wolf full of power appeared on his face. Sarutobi Ryo couldn't help but brighten his eyes. The official databook clearly records that Fire Dragon Flame Bullet is a powerful fire release ninjutsu that only the third Hokage knows. Although Boruto TV created an original version where Jiraiya also knows it, the TV original can only be for fun and is often not canon, but a secondary setting. Sarutobi Ryo, even Jiraiya and the others haven't learned this technique. You must study and master it well. The fire lit up the night sky. Buwako's face was illuminated by the fire. Her earnest exhortation also proved Sarutobi Ryo's guess. I understand, mother. Sarutobi Ryo nodded and began to memorize the details of the technique. This may not be a consideration of talent. If he can master Fire Release Fire Dragon Flame Bullet, it proves that his aptitude is even above the Sannin. The time of night passed, and the night deepened. Chapter 54. Rin's Fluttering Heart. A young girl's first love. I'll take Rin back. After seeing off his parents, it was not early. With his ability to remember everything he sees, Sarutobi Ryo memorized every detail of his father's technique, waiting to slowly digest it. Now, it's time to send Noera Rin back. The analysis of the corpse cannot be completed in a short time. Sarutobi Ryo and Noera Rin agreed that she can come over to conduct research at any time when she is free. Tomorrow happens to be Saturday and Sunday, and the Ninja Academy is on holiday. Noera Rin agreed to come again these 2 days. Sarutobi Ryo will also use his connections and resources to help her with the funds and information needed for medical ninjutsu training. Noera Rin was naturally grateful for this, only feeling that she had met a benefactor on the path of a ninja. Under the moonlight, the two walked side by side on the road. The night air was a bit chilly. Noera Rin turned to look at the male face beside her. Resolute, full of strength, and the thoughtful gaze was very far-reaching. In terms of appearance, the other party's handsomeness is no less than Kakashi's. The tempering of life and death also gave Sarutobi Ryo the maturity and stability that Kakashi could not possibly possess. Noera Rin looked at this face like this, and her heart inexplicably fluttered a little. Girls usually develop earlier than boys. 49. Section 49. The world of Naruto is also a world of precocious thinking. The naivety of youth is also the secretion of hormones. This biological activity is most intense during adolescence and is an instinct that cannot be changed by human will. Soon, Rin Noera looked away, reminding herself not to let her imagination run wild and to think more about Kakashi. A cold wind blew. Rin Noera shivered unconsciously. Immediately, a warm coat was draped over her shoulders. Rin Noera looked over instinctively and found that young Master Ryo's expression was as usual, but there was a hint of gentle concern in his eyes. Rin, it's getting a little cold. Don't catch a cold. Rin Noera immediately looked away and lowered her head. A warm feeling came from the coat, and a unique aura of a man enveloped her, making her face flushed and her head dizzy. This unprecedented experience made the little girl feel a little overwhelmed. Sarutobi Ryo was well aware of her girlish demeanor and thoughts. In the original story, Rin Noera died on Kakashi's Chidori, perhaps because she had been unable to get a response and was heartbroken, and finally chose to end her own life, while incidentally ending the thread of the three tales within her. If Rin Noera hadn't liked Kakashi at the time, perhaps the three of them would have had much less pain. Whether from the perspective of winning over Rin Noera or allowing her to survive, this advance arrangement was necessary. An excellent medical ninja can help me a lot in the future, Sarutobi Ryo thought. When they returned to Rin Nohara's residence, Rin Noera returned the coat and quickly closed the door. Judging by her appearance, she would probably be letting her imagination run wild all night. After putting the coat back on, Sarutobi Ryo quickly returned to the Sarutobi clan's residence. Walking back into the courtyard, Sarutobi Ryo looked up at the starry sky, unable to sleep for a long time. Yamanaka Kei came to the courtyard, originally wanting to report on the progress of Rin Nohara's analysis, but now seeing the young master's pensive appearance, she couldn't help but gently ask, "Young master, are you worried about something?" Without waiting for Sarutobi Ryo to respond, she said gently, "No matter what young master does, I will fully support you." "Yeah." Sarutobi Ryo raised his arm, grasped his childhood sweetheart's slender hand, and made a decision in his heart, judged by actions as well as intentions. Konoha should not continue to degenerate like this. Not only must he change Tsukumo Hataki's inevitable fate, but the entire Konoha and the ninja world should also have a change of scenery. In the days that followed, Rin Noera frequently came to analyze the corpse. During the research process, her medical ninjutsu also gradually improved, and she mastered more medical knowledge. Her special actions naturally aroused the curiosity of her little partner, Obito. Rin. One early morning, Obito came to Rin Nohara's house, ready to play with her. However, Rin Noera looked hurried, picked up large and small bags, and walked out. The crucial moment of the final step of the research could not be delayed. So, she looked at Obito and said gently, "Obito, I have important things to do. You must also cultivate well and strive to catch up with Kakashi as soon as possible." After instructing him, Rin Noera quickly left. Looking at the back of his goddess leaving, Obito felt a little lost in his heart. Rin seems to be very busy these days. When the streets were bustling with people, Rin Nohara's research over the past week finally came to an end. Inside the secret room, Rin Noera breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Sarutobi Ryo with a smile. "Young Master Ryo, I have lived up to your expectations." She explained in detail the operation method and detailed composition principle of ice release chakra, completing the last piece of the puzzle. Extracting information from corpses to obtain techniques is something that all ninja villages are doing. Rin Noera proved her talent. "Rin, thank you for your hard work." Sarutobi Ryo thanked her solemnly. Looking up at the resolute male face in front of her, Rin Nohara's little face turned red, and she immediately lowered her head. "No, it's nothing, young Master Ryo. This is my due responsibility. As a student of the ninja school, a future ninja, Rin Noera has the obligation to help the village. This is one thing." Secondly, during this period of time, Rin Noera gradually learned what the real ninja social relationship is like. The experience, which was completely different from the interpersonal relationships in the past at school, made her feel very fresh. She was clearly a child, but she participated in the tasks of adults. This also made Rin Noera realize that perhaps she was a little naive in the past. She should graduate as soon as possible and get rid of her student status. The world of ninjas is very broad. Only by graduating first can she help more people and do more for the village. This is what she has learned in the past week. This is the 150,000 Ryo agreed upon before. I will also give you an additional 50,000 Ryo. Sarutobi Ryo took out a stack of money. Before Rin Noera could refuse, Sarutobi Ryo continued. "The additional 50,000 Ryo will be my financial assistance to you. Everyone has a heart for talent. Rin, you will definitely become a powerful medical ninja, no less than Princess Tsunade in the future." Sarutobi Ryo's praise, high evaluation, and earnest entrustment made Rin Noera feel the sincerity and hope in his words. She pursed her lips and finally did not refuse, but solemnly accepted the additional funding. Young Master Ryo, please rest assured, I will continue to work hard. Feeling the heavy responsibility on her shoulders, Rin Noera nodded goodbye. She had spent too much energy and would take a good rest after returning. When she walked to the door, Rin Noera bumped into the barrier. Thinking about things in her head, she actually forgot that the door needed a technique to open. Bang! Rin Noera let out a small, animal-like exclamation. Just before she fell, a strong arm supported her. Rin, are you okay? Woo! Rin Noera slowly raised her head. She saw Sarutobi Ryo's handsome and resolute face, and Sarutobi Ryo also saw the little girl's trembling eyes. Her flushed, pretty face showed her reaction. Her almost melted, watery eyes foreshadowed a girl in love. Rin Noera hurriedly stood up, bowed her thanks in a panic, and then turned and ran away in a hurry. Looking at her leaving figure, Yamanaka K smiled. Young Master is really amazing. He has completely eaten this little girl to death in a few strokes. After Rin Nohara's figure disappeared from sight, Sarutobi Ryo's eyes slowly turned cold. Walking back to the secret room, without even looking at the corpse on the table, he just looked straight at the analysis scroll written by Rin Noera. The information on ice release bloodline limit was completely incorporated, analyzed by the brain, and finally, Sarutobi Ryo nodded. So, that's how it is. Chapter 55. Cultivating Ice Release. The spring-filled mountain valley behind Konoha was at night. Sarutobi Ryo sat cross-legged on a rock, sitting like this for the whole day. Two Umbu members waited silently in the dark, their expressions becoming more and more impatient. These two were both veterans of Umbu Squad 6. During the Second Ninja World War, the captain and squad leaders of Umbu Squad 6 died in battle, and more than half of the ordinary members were killed or injured. The organization was almost unsustainable. When the two received the order and heard that someone was taking office as squad leader, they were initially very happy. After all, Umbu Squad 6 was more than just an organization to them, the survivors. It also symbolized the precious experiences, memories, and glory of the past. But as they came to report here, after waiting for a whole day, their thoughts began to change. The eldest son of the Hokage, this young master, just sat here all day, motionless. Even if it was cultivation, it wouldn't be like this, right? Just as the two were slandering in their hearts, thinking that this was probably young Master Sarutobi Ryo, this new official, deliberately making things difficult for them. A trace of change quietly occurred. White light spots suddenly began to drift in the sky. With the advantage of a ninja's dynamic vision, one could see the essence of these white light spots at a glance. Snow. The two Umbu were slightly stunned. More and more snowflakes appeared in the sky. To be precise, a strange snow scene was produced within a few meters centered on Sarutobi Ryo. It was clearly a spring season, but it was so abnormally snowing. Soon, frost spread out, with Sarutobi Ryo's cross-legged body. As the center, cold air diffused, snowflakes began to appear on the rock surface, followed by grass, low shrubs. It wasn't until this time that the two knowledgeable Umbu exclaimed in surprise. Ice Release. Ice Release bloodline limit is a bloodline belonging to the Yuki clan of Kirigakure. There are also ninjas who can use Ice Release in the distant land of snow, but that is due to natural environmental reasons. Now, seeing the strange snow scene produced next to Sarutobi Ryo, an impossible possibility suddenly appeared in the hearts of the two Umbu. Young Master Ryo, has the Ice Release bloodline limit? The two's guess was not wrong. Sarutobi Ryo had been sitting here motionless these past few days, precisely to cultivate the Ice Release bloodline limit. According to the information analyzed by Rin Noera, he tried to fuse the two attributes of wind and water in a special way, and after 3 days and 3 nights of sleepless cultivation. In the early stage, he relied on shadow clones, and in the later stage, he relied on comprehension, and finally successfully condensed the Ice Release chakra. It sounds simple, but in fact, talent, method, perseverance, and comprehension are all indispensable. Sarutobi Ryo believed that he was the only one in the entire Konoha who could do this. 50. Section 50. Suddenly, Sarutobi Ryo opened his eyes, a divine light bursting forth from his pupils, carrying a chill as he gazed at the two. Sorry to keep you waiting. Facing Sarutobi Ryo's gaze, the two felt an astonishing chill rush towards them, as if they were alone facing a blizzard, and the surrounding temperature seemed to drop even further. Immediately, Sarutobi Ryo stood up, and the frost covering his body's surface quickly receded. The two Umbu immediately put away their other thoughts, no longer feeling that this young master was just toying with them. As expected, it's ice release. Yes. Sarutobi Ryo clearly heard the two's conversation, but he didn't care and instead asked the two their names. Yunino Ikiku, Yunino Kaori? The two masked figures, one male and one female, both removed their masks. They had resolute faces and the same surname. The two were husband and wife. They had a son named Yunino Irika. As survivors of Umbu Squad 6, they were currently being transferred to Sarutobi Ryo's command, the newly appointed Umbu Squad leader. Sarutobi Ryo nonchalantly extended his palm, and a dense chill immediately began to drift in his palm. Young master, congratulations. Yamanaka suddenly appeared from the shadows, startling the couple. They then realized that there was another person hidden in the shadows. Obviously, Yamanaka was not only proficient in sensing, but also in counter detection, which meant that the two had not even noticed her presence. Yes. Sarutobi Ryo squeezed his palm, and the chill suddenly dissipated. With his hands behind his back, he looked down at the three. The new Umbu Squad 6 was temporarily formed in this way. Originally, an Umbu Squad had at least 8 people, 1 Umbu Squad leader, 2 Umbu Sub-Squad leaders, and 8 members. Now, Danzo had other plans. A 4-person branch team was enough to carry out various tasks. Did Danzo-sama give you any instructions? Sarutobi Ryo asked. As the top superior of all Umbu and the Umbu commander, Danzo naturally had the right to allocate all affairs. Tobirama Senju stipulated the secrecy of Umbu, which was understandable, but some things were not always immutable. Sarutobi Ryo had indeed joined Umbu, but he did not intend to hide like in the original work. In the original work, the original body never showed his face in his life, not even his name, only an Umbu close-up. This did not conform to Sarutobi Ryo's idea of changing the world. To increase his reputation, he had at least let others know what he was doing. A gentleman is open and upright, while a petty person is always worried. From today onwards, ninjas without Umbu masks appeared. This also foreshadowed that Sarutobi Ryo had officially begun to resist the distorted fire release system of ninjas, Umbu, and even Konoha, constructed by Tobirama Senju. No need to follow the rules. I will smash the decaying old system. You two can just follow your past habits. I have my own ideas. Sarutobi Ryo didn't care about Irika's parents. As his power increased, more and more things would have to be changed in the future, and he would also build up his own forces and subordinates. Yamanaka Gyurin, Ringo Amuri, Noera Rin, and others were the beginning. During this period, unimportant characters would be slowly replaced. The entire Umbu Squad, and even the entire Konoha, would slowly become his own. Since Danzo hasn't assigned you any tasks, then next, I want you to do one thing. Sarutobi Ryo instructed the couple to follow Hatake Kakashi 24 hours a day. Any whereabouts, especially leaving the village, must be reported to him immediately. In the next few days, I will continue to practice the ice release Kekkei Genkai. If anything happens, just come directly here. You two are Jonin. You can use shadow clone, right? Using shadow clones to report was one of the most convenient means of communication. After arranging the two's tasks, Sarutobi Ryo sent them away. Sitting cross-legged, Sarutobi Ryo closed his eyes, ignoring the shock on the two's faces. Time was of the essence. Maybe at any moment, Hatake Kakashi would embark on the path of certain death. Before that moment arrived, seizing the time to cultivate had become Sarutobi Ryo's only thought. And with the understanding of ice release chakra, some past memories also resurfaced in his mind. That was in the past. What happened between Tobarama Senju, Sarutobi Ryo, and Minato Namikaze, commonly known as Hokage Flashback. Chapter 56. Tobarama Senju, Sarutobi Ryo, and Minato Namikaze trio many years ago. When Sarutobi Ryo was still a child, his personality was slightly withdrawn. At that time, Sarutobi Ryo, with the memories of a transmigrator's second life, had no intention of changing the world. Because Sarutobi Ryo, who had read the work Naruto, was very clear about everyone's fate and the future of this world. In Sarutobi Ryo's view, there was nothing good about changing the future. Until a second-generation gathering. Other children came with their parents, relatives, friends, and masters to play together, lively and bustling. Only Sarutobi Ryo sat alone in the corner, not talking to anyone. This phenomenon attracted the attention of Tobarama Senju. At that time, Tobarama Senju had already met Minato Namikaze. Minato Namikaze, who was still in school, addressed Tobarama Senju as senior, and being able to appear here also showed that Jiraiya had observed Minato Namikaze's talent in advance and interacted with him. "You're the Hokage-sama's son, Sarutobi Ryo, right? Nice to meet you. I am Tobarama Senju. I am Minato Namikaze." The two said this at the time, showing a kind and cheerful attitude. Sarutobi Ryo just raised his head and glanced at the two, made a simple self-introduction at will, and then continued to lower his head to look at the stove. The charcoal crackled, and the stove baked the house very warmly. Tobarama Senju asked why Sarutobi Ryo didn't play with others. Sarutobi Ryo asked in return, why should he play with others? Is there any meaning? Tobarama Senju immediately seemed to have found a confidant, saying that he had begun to think about the meaning of life when he was just sensible. The final conclusion was to protect the village created by Grandpa Hashirama Senju and become the Hokage of this village. Young ambition is always so simple and bright. This is human nature. But most people will understand when they grow up how dark and cruel reality is. Tobarama Senju made an invitation, hoping that Sarutobi Ryo could be his partner and help him fulfill his dream. Because becoming Hokage is not only one person's effort. The help of partners is also crucial. Back then, it was the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan who joined forces to create Konoha. Later, the Sarutobi clan, the Shimura clan, Inoshikicho, Hyuga, various joined one after another, and finally there was today's Konoha. Sarutobi Ryo was expressionless, without sadness or joy, listened to Tobarama Senju's dream, and did not laugh at his youth. Responding to the invitation, Sarutobi Ryo got up and put a piece of metal into the stove. Facing Sarutobi Ryo's behavior, Minato Namikaze didn't understand what it meant, but Tobarama Senju seemed thoughtful. "Senior Tobarama, look, there's no fire in this stove anymore. How can you forge a good knife?" Sarutobi Ryo said, pointing to the stove that was about to burn out. Konoha has many darknesses. Even the entire undertone is a distorted fire release route. The will of fire originally emphasized dedication and sacrificing oneself to protect important people and things. But it has turned into infighting, murdering loyal people, treating human life as worthless, and letting others die to save oneself. How could such Konoha be good? And this distortion began in the era of the brothers Hashirama Senju and Tobarama Senju. From the moment Hashirama Senju broke his promise and adopted Tobarama Senju's suggestion to deceive and abandon Madara Uchiha, the will of fire no longer existed. In this case, what's the point of talking about Hokage or not Hokage? Just sit and wait for the reincarnations of the two gods Indra and Azura to save the world. Of course, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha are just another pair of Hashirama Senju / Tobarama Senju. Everything is a brand new reincarnation. In the official novel Sasuke's True Story, Sasuke, who lost an arm, traveled around the ninja world eliminating various enemies for Konoha, and couldn't go home for 365 days. Because Danzo was dead, Root was disbanded. But the darkness of Konoha still exists. Someone has to do this kind of dirty work and hard work. Naruto Uzumaki can continue to be his glorious and upright Hokage and leave all the darkness to Sasuke to deal with. Sasuke also gradually understood Danzo in this process. Is there anything more blackly humorous than this in the world? When Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke die, a new ninja war will still break out because nothing has changed. Everything is no different from the era of the brothers Hashirama Senju and Tobirama Senju. Seeing the future at a glance is like the extinguishing of this stove fire. No one will burn themselves anymore to illuminate others. The superiors will only burn others to supply themselves. Tobirama Senju pondered for a moment, seeming to understand what Sarutobi Ryo meant. He rolled up his sleeves, raised his right hand, and opened his 5 fingers. 51. Section 51 then. Something even Sarutobi Ryo couldn't have predicted happened. Not enough fire? Then I'll use my hand as firewood to make it enough. The next second, in the astonished gaze of Namikaze Minato, Senju Nawaki plunged his right hand into the stove. "Nawaki-senpai," Namikaze Minato exclaimed. His reflexes were incredibly fast. In less than a second, he pulled Senju Nawaki's arm out. Looking at Senju Nawaki's appearance of enduring the pain, Namikaze Minato advised, "Nawaki-senpai, everyone has their own ambitions. Why bother?" Perhaps Namikaze Minato failed to understand the deeper meaning in the interaction between Sarutobi Ryo and Senju Nawaki. Or perhaps Namikaze Minato understood, but felt that Sarutobi Ryo and he were not the same kind of people. "Ryo-kun." Senju Nawaki looked towards Sarutobi Ryo, whose expression was different, his gaze extremely sincere. A single spark can start a prairie fire. Afterwards, Senju Nawaki lied and claimed that he accidentally burned his hand and was scolded by Tsunade. Her younger brother's accident made her feel both heartache and anger. After all, burn scars are not so easily removed. And since this incident, Sarutobi Ryo slightly changed his mind and decided to follow Senju Nawaki and see, could this world become any brighter? From then on, the 3 of them often gathered together. Sarutobi Ryo, due to his personality, didn't like to talk much. He was only close to Senju Nawaki and didn't have a deep relationship with Namikaze Minato. Through the symbolism of burning oneself, Senju Nawaki expressed his deep desire to change the village. One day, the 3 of them stood at the entrance of Konoha, gazing at the Hokage rock at the end. "Minato, look, what does the Hokage rock look like from afar?" Senju Nawaki asked. "It looks like a milestone, on which will be recorded the great things the 3 of us will do in the future." Namikaze Minato, whose dream was also to become Hokage, said without hesitation. "Yes." "Then Ryo-kun, what do you say?" Senju Nawaki looked at Sarutobi Ryo again. Sarutobi Ryo's expression was solemn, his gaze far-reaching. After thinking for a moment, he said, "It looks like a tombstone. One general succeeds, 10,000 bones wither. I wonder how many people's dreams and lives are buried here." Chapter 57. Inheritors of the Will of Fire Later. The 3 of them weathered storms together and performed excellently in the Ninja Academy. They encountered some setbacks, but they were all overcome. Grandpa and Uchiha Orochima's original intention in building Konoha was to prevent children from going to the battlefield again. But now Konoha is actually at the graduation ceremony, Senju Nawaki said with emotion. "But even though the road ahead is full of hardships, I believe there will always be a day when the sun shines brightly." As a senior student, Senju Nawaki naturally graduated 1 year earlier. At the moment of Senju Nawaki's graduation, the Second Shinobi World War broke out. At the beginning of the war, each village sent ninjas to the front lines. Konoha even sent many children. Senju Nawaki learned about this from his sister, Tsunade. Many children had already died. For example, a senior student named Kat, who graduated last year, Kat Dan's younger sister. "I have become a formal ninja." After finishing his, Senju Nawaki looked at his 2 juniors. Sarutobi Ryo, took a step forward and advised. The years of getting along had completely made Sarutobi Ryo understand Senju Nawaki's character. He was upright and completely different from the current high-level officials of Konoha. If his fate could be changed, allowing him to live and become Hokage, perhaps Konoha, or even the entire shinobi world, would usher in a different change. Sarutobi Ryo. Don't you think it's absurd to send children to the battlefield? Namake's Minato! Exclamation point. Namake's Minato saw Sarutobi Ryo's persuasion. But at that time, Namake's Minato was just silent. Because not everyone would question the problems of Konoha's high-level officials, and not everyone would resist. Nawaki-senpai. Think again. There's a possibility that someone at the top is deliberately trying to harm you. Sarutobi Ryo continued to persuade, seeing that Senju Nawaki was unmoved. In a Naruto work, Senju Nawaki's death makes it hard not to associate it with conspiracy theories. The grandson of the god of shinobi was casually sent to his death, which didn't make sense no matter how you looked at it. Maybe. Senju Nawaki nodded. He probably also knew the possibility that it was full of traps. If that's the case, why? Sarutobi Ryo didn't say the following words. Even the grandson of the god of shinobi was just a genin who had just graduated and could easily die on the battlefield. Senju Nawaki shook his head. To do great things, you either succeed greatly or fail greatly. There's never a middle ground. Some risks must be taken. That night, Sarutobi Ryo faced the wall and couldn't sleep for a long time. After a while, a figure broke in. Young master, it's not good. As you said, Nawaki-senpai is going to the battlefield. Yamanaka Kei rushed in, groping in the dark. She entered Senju Nawaki's house and found Senju Nawaki packing his bags, possibly leaving tonight. Let's go. Sarutobi Ryo immediately decided to go and find Senju Nawaki, even if he had to knock him out and hide him. But when Sarutobi Ryo arrived at Senju Nawaki's house, Senju Nawaki, who was ready, was already waiting for Sarutobi Ryo. Ryo-kun, I knew you would come. Nawaki-senpai, let's go, Sarutobi Ryo invited, intending to prevent Senju Nawaki from going to the battlefield. Senju Nawaki shook his head. You can leave Konoha, but you can't leave the shinobi world. Sarutobi Ryo frowned slightly, understanding Senju Nawaki's meaning, but still decided to try to save him. If we can get through tonight, we'll have tomorrow. Senju Nawaki shook his head. Grandpa Senju Hashirama once said, each generation has things that it can do. Tomorrow's matters should be left to the people of tomorrow to do. What I can do is to generously go to my death and burn myself to inspire everyone. Human power sometimes runs out. A person's dream and reality are often different. Senju Nawaki understood the limitations of each person in these years of growth. He was not the one who could completely change Konoha or even change the shinobi world. Neither was Namake's Minato. But there was someone. A single spark can start a prairie fire. Senju Nawaki turned his back, leaving Sarutobi Ryo with a back view. Tomorrow's matters. I'll leave them to Ryo-kun. Sarutobi Ryo was silent. Senju Nawaki's self-sacrificing to practice the true will of fire shocked Sarutobi Ryo's mind. Nawaki-senpai, you're right. To do great things, you either succeed greatly or fail greatly. There's never a middle ground. Konoha or the shinobi world will definitely change. I promise you that Konoha will always follow your path. The path of the true will of fire, burning oneself to illuminate others and protect cherished people or things. Not a distorted fire cultivator. In this process, one naturally needs to be brave and forge ahead, even recklessly, rather than compromising, let alone flattering. Konoha will always follow my path. Senju Nawaki turned around, his eyes full of tears. It's human nature to be afraid of death, and who doesn't cherish their own life? But he was already prepared to burn himself and illuminate others, because that was the true will of fire. Senju Nawaki had always been practicing the beliefs he adhered to with his life. Ryo-kun. Senju Nawaki smiled slightly. I want to sleep for a while. I haven't had a good rest in a long time. After saying that, He slowly sat back on the bed, lay down, and finally closed his eyes. Since the will of fire had already been inherited, then, after a road full of hardships, there would inevitably be a day when the sun shines brightly. Ryokan, the will of fire, and the village, I entrust them to you. Sarutobi Ryo suddenly opened his eyes. Everything around him had already frozen into ice. After several more days of cultivation, Sarutobi Ryo had completely mastered the essence of the ice release Kekkai Genkai. Ice release. As Sarutobi Ryo formed the hand seals, frost climbed and condensed into an ice blade. Holding the weapon, Sarutobi Ryo was not frostbitten by the low temperature at all. The ice release Kekkai Genkai had subtly changed Sarutobi Ryo's body in the past few days, making Sarutobi Ryo no longer afraid of wind, snow, and low temperatures. Even in the cold winter, he could be bare-chested as if a spring breeze was blowing. Of course, this was just a side effect. 52. Section 52. The real function is the attack extensibility brought by the ice release Kekkai Genkai. Chi. Sarutobi Ryo faced the rock wall of the back mountain and waved the ice blade. The combination of wind and water gives ice release extremely strong cutting power, with a freezing effect that can freeze the enemy's body and nerves. This results in side effects such as frostbite, numbness, and slowness. The hard rock wall, facing the sharper ice blade, was quickly cut with deep marks. This move can not only be used to condense the ice blade, but also to attach ice release chakra to weapons, creating an enchanting effect. Compared to ordinary non-attribute chakra, it will appear sharper and more versatile. Yamanaka K, who was on the side, saw his young master suddenly burst out and then started testing the attack characteristics of ice release on the rock wall. And soon, Yamanaka K saw that his young master was carving characters. Chapter 58. Shikatsu Forest Contract. Slug, I need you to help me save someone. I laugh, brandishing my blade at the sky. My loyalty remains though I depart to the Kunlun Mountains. Chi. The last two words, driven by the stimulated sharp chill, were like launching a blade of energy through the air. Isn't this Tsukumo-sensei's swordsmanship technique? Young master used ice release to perform this move. Yamanaka K couldn't help but exclaim. Launching something like blade energy through the air is not exclusive to Hitaki Tsukumo. For example, Shirayuki Hayama, who had performed missions together before, could launch a transparent wind release vacuum sword. Also, the samurai of a land of iron can also fling the chakra on their blades, turning them into flying tools. Naturally, Hitaki Tsukumo, as the strongest swordsman, also knew the same trick. This was also the last technique Hitaki Tsukumo taught Sarutobi Ryo, except that he used wind release to demonstrate it at the time. Sarutobi Ryo, at this moment, used ice release Kekkai Genkai to reproduce this high-end technique. Chi. As the sharp chill condensed, the rock wall was left with ingenious blade energy carvings from afar. Each stroke was stimulated by blade energy. Each blade was also Sarutobi Ryo's understanding and practice of the way of ice release chakra. Just by relying on this close-range and long-range launching of ice release chakra technique, Sarutobi Ryo has already surpassed most of the knife-wielding masters in Konoha. Senju Nawaki, after finishing the carving, Sarutobi Ryo put down the ice blade and looked up at the poem, smiling at the sky and going to die generously. The departing and the living share loyalty. This is the meaning of these two sentences. It is also a poem written by Sarutobi Ryo for Senju Nawaki, and even more inheritance and practice of the true will of fire. I will make Konoha and the ninja world change. Those who do great things either succeed greatly or fail greatly. There's never a middle ground. Opening it, a series of contract spells were clearly displayed inside. On it, there were also several names. The names of Senju Hashirama, Senju Tsunade, Senju Nawaki, and others were impressively listed. Sarutobi Ryo bit his finger and began to write his name on it. Young master, no. Yamanaka K exclaimed again. Senjin Iwaki's relic, the Shikatsu Forest contract. That thing is too dangerous. Summoning technique. Soon, Sarutobi Ryo, who had finished writing the contract, activated the relic of Senjin Iwaki that had not been used for several years. Bang! As the smoke rose, a huge white worm with blue patterns appeared in front of the two, instantly filling the space. "It's you!" The sky-covering shadow fluttered, as if a mountain was moving. The moment it saw Sarutobi Ryo, the slug's mental energy surged wildly. Interfering with reality is a chilling, killing intent. The slug, which was emitting a strong hostility towards Sarutobi Ryo, still held a grudge against Sarutobi Ryo for not saving Senjin Iwaki. Knowing that Iwaki would die, he just watched him die. At that time, Sarutobi Ryo didn't have a chance to explain. Now, the time has come to make the slug his help in order to realize the true will of fire. "I need you to help me save someone." Sarutobi Ryo, facing the huge slug, which was like a hill, did not have the slightest fear, nor did he explain. "Who?" the slug asked, suppressing the urge to attack. "Konoha White Fang Hatake Tsukumo." This sentence did not change the slug's mind. Seeing that the slug was about to spit acid, Sarutobi Ryo spoke again. This time, he said a sentence that Senjin Iwaki often said. "A single spark can start a prairie fire." The slug was silent. It could launch an attack at any time. Orochimaru, who was best at saving his life, also commented that the slug's attack could really kill him, because the slug's acid can even instantly vaporize rocks and steel. A mortal body that comes into contact with this acid will not even have a shadow left. Yamanaka Kei looked nervously at his young master, confronting the slug. For a long time, the slug then put away its attacking posture. It still said with a sweet, girlish voice, "Don't think I will believe you. I will only cooperate with you temporarily." "That's enough." Sarutobi Ryo nodded. Far away, Yunino Ikiku and Yunino Kaori were rushing over. When they saw Sarutobi Ryo summon the huge slug, they were stunned. "That's Slug-sama, Princess Tsunade's summoning beast, Slug-sama from Shikatsu Forest, one of the 3 great sacred places. It is said that the slug is one as a whole, one is countless. The meaning is, all slugs are one, even if they're split into countless, they only have one common consciousness. The height of the slug can be high or low. The more chakra, the larger the slug's figure that can be summoned. A slug with a height of 20 meters is less than 1,000th of the slug sage's main body. Perhaps the slug sage is the largest creature on this planet. Young Master Sarutobi Ryo actually summoned Slug-sama. The couple looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. You must know, the slug was only driven by Princess Tsunade and young Master Nawaki and a few others back then. And soon, they remembered their mission. Rushing over quickly, the two did not notice the tension between the slug and Sarutobi Ryo. Ryo Shasama, Tsukumo Sensei, received a mission and seems to be leaving the village. "I know." Sarutobi Ryo nodded, glanced at the slug, and completed the exchange with a brief look. With a bang, the smoke rose and the slug disappeared. The hill-like figure disappeared, and Yunino Ikiku and Yunino Kaori breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, go find Might Guy Sensei and tell him that the day of the appointment has arrived." Sarutobi Ryo instructed Aoi to find Might Guy. This time, Hatake Tsukumo leaves the village. It is likely that he will be harmed. With Might Guy, the 8 Gates user, as the bottom line, plus his newly cultivated ice release, plus a slug. Are you still afraid that you can't crack the conspiracy of Konoha's higher-ups? Ryo Shasama. No, squad leader, what's going on? Yunino Kaori and Yunino Ikiku were confused. What does this have to do with Might Guy? The two did not know what Sarutobi Ryo was thinking and what the next plan was. I saw Sarutobi Ryo turn around and stare at the two. You two, Tsukumo-sensei's mission will be a bit troublesome. Our duty is to go and help, secretly pay attention. Oh, the couple nodded, still kept in the dark. After all, with their authority, it is absolutely impossible to know about Hatake Tsukumo being harmed. Therefore, Sarutobi Ryo did not explain, so as to avoid extra incidents. And in any case, the Konoha higher-ups would not make things difficult for these two. After all, they're just two ordinary Anbu members. Soon, Sarutobi Ryo took the couple out of the village and then met up with Yamanaka Kei and Might Guy. In order not to attract Hatake Tsukumo's attention, Yamanaka Kei even found Hyuga Ruri along the way. Relying on the observation of the Byakugan, the group tracked all the way, secretly following Hatake Tsukumo and others who left the village. 53. Section 53 Volume 2 Chapter 1. Farewell, Yurito of the Will of Fire Weapon Rain. Young Master Ryo. Where exactly is our destination? Outside Konoha, the group sped across the plains. As a genin, Might Due usually only carried out D-rank and C-rank missions. He frequently glanced sideways at the two Anbu beside the team, the Yumino couple. The scale of this mission was clearly unusual. Common sense dictated that missions requiring Anbu involvement were usually B rank or higher. Might Due had assumed that young Master Ryo's invitation would be a C rank mission at most, never expecting. This made him feel excited, but also a little uneasy. We might clash with the Cloud Ninjas, Sarutobi Ryo said casually. Of course, this answer was just a guess. In the original story, years later, during the Third Shinobi World War, Kakashi faced an IWA Jonin who, upon seeing the white light chakra saber, mistook him for Tsukumo Hatake himself. This indicated that a Wagakure didn't know about Tsukumo Hatake's death at that time. Therefore, it could be determined that Tsukumo Hatake's mission was unrelated to a Wagakure. Currently, Tsunagekyu's attitude was ambiguous, but at least there was a ceasefire agreement with Konoha, so Tsunagekure could also be ruled out. That left Kirigakure and Kumogakure as the only possibilities. Considering Yakushi Nono's sudden departure, the Konoha higher-ups would likely arrange for her to infiltrate one of the villages, seize a suitable opportunity, and use the enemy's strength to screw over Tsukumo Hatake. Within Kirigakure, the third Mizukage currently ruled, and that village was extremely bloody and brutal, making infiltration difficult. In this light, Kumogakure was the only possibility. Kumogakure is currently led by the third Reikage and has many powerful ninjas under his command. Yamanaka Kei spoke, organizing the intelligence for everyone. Her cousin, Yamanaka Inoichi, was the leader of the Konoha Intelligence Division, so she could naturally obtain some extra information. However, in a one-on-one fight, few can match Tsukumo-sensei. To set up Tsukumo Hatake and succeed, they could only resort to a human wave tactic. The AB Duo, the Lava Release User Dodai, Black Lightning User, Suri. One by one, the names of powerful ninjas were spoken by Yamanaka Kei. Yamanaka Kei's tone was tinged with emotion. Sarutobi Ryo nodded. This setting wasn't fan-made, but official content. In the manga, Little Killer Bee rampaged during a mission, causing IWA ninjas to say, "He's just a kid, but he's so strong." Are you the famous AB Duo? The official databook, the Book of Formation, clearly stated that Killer Bee was only 5 years old at the time and had already become famous throughout the shinobi world with his adopted brother. In that year, Sarutobi Ryo, Minato Namikaze, Yamanaka Kei, and others had just graduated. In the manga, Killer Bee was only 15 years old when he first fought Minato Namikaze. The shinobi world is never short of geniuses, Sarutobi Ryo said calmly. However, everyone doesn't need to worry. Our mission this time only requires support. The main force is still Tsukumo-sensei. The dilemma of Tsukumo Hatake's mission this time lay in whether to choose to carry out the mission and abandon his teammates, or to save the team, abandon the mission, and cause huge losses to the Land of Fire. Kumogakure would definitely send out powerful ninjas to try to hold back Tsukumo Hatake. Then, they would attack Tsukumo Hatake's teammates on this mission in a two-pronged attack. So, what he had to do was very clear. As long as he investigated the specific details of Tsukumo Hatake's mission, allowing him to focus on fighting the enemy, Tsukumo Hatake wouldn't have to face a difficult choice. To put it bluntly, the Konoha higher-ups had definitely arranged for a few trash teammates for Tsukumo Hatake this time, deliberately hindering him. Sarutobi Ryo. And my mission is to protect those few who are dragging their feet. Soon after, Hyuga Ruri suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Ruri, Yamanaka K immediately asked. Hyuga Ruri pointed. Following her gaze, a blurry shadow gradually rose from the puddle on the ground. Be careful. Mist ninjas. The Yumino couple immediately warned. This kind of disguise, lurking in puddles and difficult to detect, was undoubtedly the work of a ninja from the Bloody Mist. Had mist ninjas infiltrated the land of fire again? Just as the tension reached its peak, the shadow revealed its figure and stood on the water surface. Yo, a short female ninja with shark-like teeth and a good expression. It was Ringo Yurito, whom they hadn't seen for 2 weeks. It's you. Yamanaka K immediately lowered her stance. When the Yumino couple saw the scratch on Ringo Yurito's forehead protector, they immediately understood. A rogue ninja? Isn't she the genius Ringo Yurito of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist? Did she betray Kirigakure? The two were extremely shocked. Kirigakure was an extremely closed-off village that never communicated with other villages. So even if there were rogue ninjas, other countries wouldn't know. What is it? Sarutobi Ryo's attitude was even more indifferent. Even before Hyuga Ruri pointed her out, Sarutobi Ryo had sensed Ringo Yurito's presence. Nothing else, just the will of firebrand. The curse mark outlined on Ringo Yurito's abdomen after the will of fire was injected became the reason Sarutobi Ryo noticed her. Curse marks were such a mysterious existence. The caster could definitely sense it within a certain distance. I become a bounty hunter. Ringo Yurito spun around, like a whirling dancer, and came before the group. Young Master Ryo. Might Due couldn't help but feel a little nervous. After all, the other party was the famous 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Seeing Sarutobi Ryo familiar with the 7 ninja swordsmen, the Yumino couple were also slightly bewildered. I have some information I can provide to you as repayment for the favor last time. What do you think? Ringo Yurito smiled, but still sized up Sarutobi Ryo nervously. There was no way around it. She had personally experienced his seemingly indifferent, but actually cruel personality. And what Sarutobi Ryo had said last time, that the curse mark could kill her at any time, also made Ringo Yurito uneasy, so she didn't dare to act rashly. Of course, perhaps she hadn't come without the possibility of testing him. Speak. Sarutobi Ryo remained expressionless, without joy or sorrow. Well, the thing is, in Ringo Yurito's description, the group learned about her recent experiences. After healing her injuries, she left the port town and went to an underground gold exchange within the Land of Fire, becoming a bounty hunter. After completing 2 missions, she saved up some money, and her days were quite comfortable. The recent news she had heard was that Kumogakure had a small-scale movement to invade the Land of Fire. Ringo Yurito's investigation also coincided with Tsukumo Hataki's mission. Explain in detail. Sarutobi Ryo's lips curled slightly, and the fake smile made Ringo Yurito feel a little uneasy. She quickly spilled all the details. Very good. With Ringo Yurito's information, they were 1 step ahead of the enemy. In that case, we can ambush them on their way. Target, the Land of Frost. Sarutobi Ryo decided to speed up their pace and move faster than Tsukumo Hataki and the others, arriving ahead of them, thus striking first. Of course, this would inevitably consume a lot of physical strength, which ordinary ninjas couldn't keep up with. Everyone, please do as you wish. Ruri, Mr. Due, the 3 of us will go ahead. Oh, okay, young Master Ryo. As a hidden taijutsu expert, Might Due instantly accelerated and chased after him. And Hyuga Ruri, who had practiced gentle fist taijutsu since childhood, looked delicate but actually had super endurance and physical strength. The 2 chased after Sarutobi Ryo, and soon the 3 of them disappeared. Young Master, Yamanaka K felt so hopeless. Every time there was a physical strength competition, it would turn out like this. There's no way around it. Who told me I'm not the type who's good at taijutsu? Sai. 54. Section 54. Ringo, aim Yuri. Then let's slowly chase after them from behind. The Uno couple. Chapter 2. saving Nono. Nono you. Young Master Ryo is so fast. Might Guy was chasing closely behind, but the distance between him and Sarutobi Ryo was visibly increasing. He had been training in the Eight Gates for over a decade, focusing on taijutsu since childhood. Might Guy believed he had gained some understanding in the realm of taijutsu. He could tell at a glance that Sarutobi Ryo's taijutsu skills were exceptionally outstanding, and the Hyuga girl beside him, who appeared petite and as if a gust of wind could blow her away, was moving at a speed that was in no way inferior to most jonin. This is youth. Might Guy smiled, expressing his heartfelt admiration for the vitality of the young people. Brimming with energy, Might Guy tensed his body and quickened his pace. And so, time flowed, the sun rose and set, and the stars shifted. Starting from Konoha, they traveled to the border of the Land of Fire. The northeastern edge of the country bordered the Land of Hot Water. Crossing the Land of Hot Water, the scene before them was covered in frost, looking like pure white snow. The Land of Frost, named for its unique scenery and climate. We're here. Sarutobi Ryo stopped walking, a region that would normally take more than 2 days to reach. The group had completed in 2/3 of the time. Taking a look at the surrounding scenery and confirming that this was the path Ringo Amuri had mentioned, Sarutobi Ryo prepared to wait for her to come. Ruri, observe a 10-kilometer radius every so often. Mr. Guy, please stand by. Okay. Might Guy nodded and immediately walked over to Ruri. Sensory ninjas need protection when they are seriously observing the situation. Since he had nothing to do, protecting his teammates was his duty. Whoosh! The cold wind howled. Vast white frost descended from the sky, as if a heavy snow was falling. The sky was dark and hazy. It was still the middle of the night, and the dawn was nowhere to be seen. Footprints, some deep and some shallow, constantly appeared on the ground. She looked serene, with fair skin and long golden hair. Beneath her compassionate expression was an undeniable, sexy figure. As she moved quickly, her alluring figure became even more prominent. The frost in front of her grew heavier and heavier, and the dark night was like a lost traveler, not knowing which way was east, west, north, or south. Chase! The shouts coming from behind made Nono Yu, who looked confused, regain some clarity in her eyes. According to the instructions of Konoha's higher-ups, she infiltrated the hidden cloud to go undercover. Originally, with her ability, she would never have been exposed and could have completed the undercover mission safely. However, the Konoha higher-ups arranged for her to be deliberately discovered after stealing the confidential information. After the incident, the hidden cloud sent pursuers, chasing along the traces she left behind. As time passed, they were about to catch up. Nono Yu, who had been fleeing all the way, was also about to join up with the rescue team. Led by Hokage Sakumo, the Konoha ninjas would repel the pursuers and successfully retrieve the intelligence. On the surface, this was a perfectly normal spy mission. In reality, the Konoha higher-ups had set a trap in this mission. They required Nono Yu to hide the stolen confidential scroll halfway. After all, Nono Yu is not a combat personnel, so there would naturally be a reason to say that she was weak and afraid that the secret would be taken back by the enemy. So she placed the scroll in a secret location, waiting for her companions to retrieve it. But this would inevitably force Hokage Sakumo to make a choice, whether to save Nono Yu's life, or to disregard her safety and directly retrieve the enemy's secret from where the scroll was hidden. With Hokage Sakumo's strength, of course, few people could stop him. But if they entangled him for a while and held him back, it would be enough for the enemy to find the secret scroll, because it was clear that the enemy had applied some kind of tracking method to the scroll. Over time, they would be able to find the scroll's location. But that wasn't the key. Nono Yu shook her head. She had served Konoha since she was a child, joined a medical team after graduation, and became a medical ninja. Later, she was discovered to have the talent to be a spy, and step by step, she eventually obtained the title of Walking Shrine Maiden. Originally, it was natural to serve the village. But a village not only has light, but also countless darkness. Witnessing countless events and secrets made Nono Yu increasingly alarmed, and tired. What shocked her the most, or rather, what made her feel disheartened, was the Konoha higher-ups' framing of Konoha's white fang. As a powerhouse above the Sannin, Hatake Tsukumo had made countless contributions to Konoha. Even such a meritorious minister, the Konoha higher-ups wanted to ruin White Fang's reputation. Hatake Tsukumo was gentle in nature, possessed the true will of fire, and had always persisted to the end. If he, who was trusted and admired by everyone, fell into the abyss, Nono-yu couldn't imagine what his ending would be. After experiencing this incident, Nono-yu completely lost heart for Konoha. She even had the intention of retiring from her ninja duties and leaving Konoha. After all, there was no reason to stay in such a Konoha, even if it was her hometown. There's nothing to miss anymore. Just as the idea of retiring sprouted in Nono-yu's mind, with a bang, she bumped into something. Ugh, the impact didn't hurt too much, as if she had bumped into a piece of dough or a sponge. Sitting on the ground, Nono-yu immediately adjusted her glasses and squinted her eyes to observe carefully. Soon, she widened her eyes. Dozens of meters behind. Captain, that guy fell down. The Hidden Cloud team was moving quickly, constantly reporting information to the leader of the team. The entire tracking squadron, starting from the Hidden Cloud, chased all the way, crossing the border of the Land of Lightning, and finally entering the Land of Frost. The leading man was dark-skinned, had short, light yellow hair, and looked lazy. As a jonin of the Hidden Cloud village, he was also a strong man who had the character Lightning tattooed on his arm by the third Reikage. Known as Black Lightning Sarui, he had the ability to release black lightning. After we catch this guy, let's have a good celebration, my treat. Sarui relaxed a little and said to his companions, Captain Sarui, I remember your wife gave birth before. The companions' emotions also relaxed slightly. They talked about Sarui's affairs at the hospital before the mission. Yeah, it's a son, very healthy. Sarui couldn't help but smile when he thought of his newborn son. I've already chosen a name. It's called Darui. Chapter 3. Future Model Worker. A certain shadow, let's move. After finishing chatting, Sarui waved his hand, preparing to have his companions cripple the spy's mobility first. The Hidden Cloud Village. The Reikage led the village with exceptional personal charisma. This made the ninjas of this village extremely united. That is to say, they hated traitors and spies the most. Only to see a hint of ruthlessness flash across the faces of several Hidden Cloud ninjas, and they directly threw out kunai. Chi! The sound of breaking wind resounded. The kunai broke through the falling frost and flew towards Nono-yu. Just as the kunai was about to pierce Nono-yu's hands and feet, the air suddenly vibrated, and accompanied by a loud noise, these kunai were shaken off. Then, a figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Nono-yu. Miss Nono-yu, long time no see. Looking at Sarutobi Ryo, who suddenly appeared in front of her, Nono-yu, who was shocked to see the slug, was stunned again. She originally thought that only Princess Tsunade could summon slugs. But Sarutobi Ryo's appearance made her brain freeze for a moment. Sarui and others saw the scene that happened here, clearly. He looked surprised and asked, Who are you? State your name. When Sarutobi Ryo raised his head, the reflection of his forehead protector was also noticed by them. It's a Konoha ninja. And behind him, isn't that Frost? It's a slug. Because the slug's figure was too huge and it was night, they couldn't see clearly at first. When they got closer, they realized that the white creature that blended with the frost was not a natural phenomenon at all, but a living thing. Slug. 55. Section 55. The older.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on EuroAudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.